Hello everyone, welcome into our latest live broadcast. It's the 1st of May, 2026. It's Friday. I hope everybody's had a good week and you're finally here at the end of the week. The weekend is awaiting, and we kick it off with a review of a mini PC that most of you have never heard of before unless you saw it here earlier, previous models. We have a new model from a company called Getorli. And we're going to talk about that today. We've got it right here in this nondescript brown box, and that lets you know basically we're working with a smaller manufacturer that is traditionally a lot less expensive than the bigger name brands. So if you're looking to save money, would this be worthy of consideration? We're going to find out today. But first, a shout out and a thank you to our friends over at VIP-URCDKeys. That's where I get my Windows and Office license keys for my business, for my clients. And if you look underneath any video that we post here, just go to the video notes. A lot of people don't even know there are video notes. But if I show you a video from March, here is the video playing on YouTube, the way you would see it. And then right below the video, you'll see a little box that gives you the number of views and the date, I think, is there. And then you hit the More button, and all the links for whatever we talked about in that video, all the information is there, along with the links to Windows 11, 10, Office, etc. Of course, you can go to the website directly and search for it yourself, but these links will take you right there instantly. And then let's say we wanted to buy this Windows, you just go ahead and hit the Buy Now button. And what you're buying is a license key. So to send you the license key, they got to have your email address, right? They got to keep that private and secure. So if you haven't created an account, just use an email address, make up a password, and you're good to go. Then use the coupon code CAREY, C-A-R-E-Y, hit the apply button and watch the price drop by 25%. Then hit the submit order button and you can pay with PayPal. So paying with PayPal for online purchasing of license keys is pretty rare to find. And they have 6 months of free support after the sale. And all the license keys are going to activate automatically online. There is no phone activation. Microsoft has shut that down because of all the piracy. So a lot of those key sellers are still telling you to activate by phone. They take your money, and then when you say, hey, it doesn't work, you don't get any response. I don't want to see you get burned by a scammer. So if you want to make sure you get a legitimate, real license key, and you want to save money and have support, and be able to activate it just like you would if you bought it directly from Microsoft, but for about 90% less than Microsoft wants to charge you, I just want you to know this is where I'm getting my keys, and I'm buying them for the same price you are. I'm entering my own coupon code. By the way, don't enter the coupon code if you don't want to. If you want to pay the extra 25%, I'm assuming you don't want to do that, but you never know. Everybody's argumentative on the internet these days, so the minute you make that assumption, someone will say, how dare you assume that I need to have a coupon code? Wouldn't put it past people today. Anyway, I don't make a commission off of it. So if you buy it, you don't buy it. It's there as a community service to our audience and the people who, of course, are our members and viewers alike, that you don't have to roll the dice and hope for the best. It's guaranteed it's going to work. And if you run into any problems, like I said, they have 24 hours. I believe their support's 24 hours, but their operation is 24 hours. So if you order your key at 2 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it doesn't matter. Within about 2 minutes, you'll get an email with the download link to the Windows or Office product, unless you already have it, because you know me, I always have it. So all I need is the product key. But that information and the directions are all included in the email you will receive along with the product key. And then if you ever lose that email, you just sign back into your account, and your purchase history based on your email address that you've registered will be there for eternity, or at least until something happens, right? Something catastrophic would have to happen. Just like I can log into Amazon and I can see every purchase I've made since my very first purchase on Amazon in 1997. It's still on record. So if you need to go back and pull a product key, or you're curious what day that was or what year that was, that's the great advantage to creating an account and not buying anonymously, because when you buy anonymously, you're kind of on your own. It's very scammer-like activity, and so companies aren't going to behave too kindly or react too kindly to be treated with such disrespect and disdain by somebody who claims to be a customer. So the help you get is equal to the sincerity you put forth when making the purchase. These days, sellers are getting scammed left and right. Also, buyers are still getting scammed left and right. So everybody's scamming everybody. So how do you find the legitimate sellers, the sincere ones? And what steps and processes do they have to take to make sure that they don't get scammed? This is something to keep in mind if you were on the other side of the fence. And I've already done all this work for you. So if you want to repeat the work, I'm not telling you not to, but I can save you a lot of time by just using those links, because that was a ton of research that I had to do, and I had to kiss a lot of frogs. There was a lot of bad sales that I dealt with through this lesson I've learned, and I'm giving you that lesson completely for free. You're welcome. What you do with it, you do with it. Okay? So just saying. There's no hard sales here. If you buy it, you don't buy it, whatever. But at least if you want to know that you're going to buy it once, it's going to work, it's got support, you're not going to wait forever for a key or wonder, you know, when am I ever going to get a response? All of that anxiety and all that worry goes away. And those links are available in all of our live videos in the video notes. So you don't need to pull up any specific video. I do recommend you look at the latest live video. The links are subject to change, as are the prices. So if I was looking to buy a key from VIP-URCDKeys, I would visit my own channel, go to my latest live video, and use the links. Because the links that we used to use years ago, they don't work anymore. It's not something that you should be bookmarking, because the bookmarks are subject to change. Just so you know, we're constantly in flux and we're constantly adjusting. This market moves very quickly. That being said, we've been with them about 3 years now. They've been fantastic, and we're just thrilled and delighted that they continue to support us here and to support you guys. So, you know, when you're thinking about where to buy your license key, why not give support back to the people that's been supporting your community? Even if that's the only reason. That's the way I see it. Let me say hello to everybody joining us. A super thank you to our friend Buster with a very generous contribution today, as well as an Amazon gift card. Thank you, Buster. He said he didn't sleep well, but he's feeling better. So hopefully he'll get some good sleep here soon. And if we don't see him in there, then we know why. He's probably catching up on his Z's. Thank you, Buster. Isaiah says hello. Jonathan Fells and David Herzog join us in the chat room, along with Sean Skinner and John Williams. There's Marlena, our channel administrator, saying hello to everybody in the chat room, along with Jim Kenny and Eddie Casanova. I also see Luke Greenia and Mark Gaines, Ben Laird, and oh, there's Buster. I see him. Where'd he go? There he is. Everybody in the chat, hello from Edinburgh. The temperature right now in Edinburgh, Scotland, 56 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 13.3 Celsius. That sounds pretty nice, actually. I'll take it. I'll take 2. 3D Everything says hello. And Andy W6AD joining us here in the chat. Xander Vanderhoven and Caniac44. Andy W6AD joins us from the Southern California mountains. And John Lewis from Brazil says hello. Buster says, Rover says woof. That's what he always says. Let's see, scrolling, and I want to say hello to everybody. Rick Lakes joins us from Minnesota. There is Phil Stodd saying hello. And Dustin Fuller. Jack Kugelmass coming to us from Toronto. Gary Tatum and Tim Davern and Frankie B all say hello. Welcome in, guys. Leon Siom says hello from Las Vegas. Welcome in. Sandrumbalo says hello from Kenya. Look at that. We got viewers all over the world on practically every continent, and that's awesome. Welcome in, everybody. This video is live, and we encourage live interaction with the chat room. If you're not in the chat room, you can't interact. You're just going to be watching a television show, basically, which is sort of mindless. We would much rather have you in our chat room and saying hello. That's all you got to do. Just say hello, and then just let things happen naturally, and before you know it, You'll be missed if you're not in there. But if you've never gone in there, we can't miss you because we don't know you exist. And we're always looking to find more like-minded, kind individuals around the world that share our passion for computers and technology. So it's never too late to join us. It's free. Just pop in, and it all starts with saying hello. If you can't be kind, then please do not bother to come in. Okay. This is like a guest in your house, you know. If you want to be nice, come on in. The house is open. And if you want to be rude, get the hell out of my house. Cracks me up that that's not common sense, but I say it because apparently it needs to be said. There's a certain percentage of people on the internet that just were raised by wolves, I guess. I don't know what's going on. So today, we've got this Getorli Mini PC that we did not purchase. For full transparency, Getorli reached out and said, hey, would you mind taking a look at our latest and greatest? We had some concerns about Getorli initially, and I think we initially bought the unit. If I'm not mistaken, we bought our first one because I'm looking for value. I'm looking for deals out there. And I think if you're looking for a deal in the PC space these days in 2026, you want to look for a brand you've never heard of before. The downside is you may not get very good support. You may not get a website and drivers. You may not get a lot of the padding that comes along with the big name brands like HP and Dell and Lenovo. You also might feel like you've never used their support. You might have found that in an attempt to use it, for example, you knew more than they did, and you were going to them for help, and you realized what a waste of time that is. And if you realize then you paid for that support, it was built into the cost of the computer, and you're not using it because it's worthless, let's just say, you don't need it, you're self-sufficient or self-reliant, and you don't ever use their own support, why are you paying for it? So why not go to a lesser known brand and save some money, since from your perspective in that situation, it would be equivalent to being the same. On the other hand, if you're someone that leans heavily on support, maybe stay away from the smaller brands or watch very carefully the reviews for anybody sharing an experience that they had regarding support. I wouldn't say they're all the same, but the smaller companies simply don't have the overhead, they don't have the money to offer the kind of support these large corporations do. But large corporations also have to spend a lot more money. And that means that each product they sell has to cover the cost. If it's costing $1 million more a year to offer support, and they're selling 1 million computers a year. I mean, they sell more than that, but just to make the math simple, just to break even, they have to charge $1 more per PC to come up with that $1 million that support costs. If there is no support, or it's very limited because it's 1 or 2 people that just kind of doing it on as an extra thing, there may be a longer delay between when you get a response. There may be no support at all, but then you're also not paying that extra fee of the cost of providing that, which again, if you're not using it anyway, why pay for it? So this is for you to decide. Right now, with the economy being the way it is and RAM and SSD prices as high as they are, everybody's looking for a deal. So based on that, let's start looking at name brands we don't recognize, because those are the ones that have to work harder for your money. Let's say, for example, you want to go up against me. Let's say I sell a CareyHolzman computer and I sell it at a premium price. You, on the other hand, you want to sell the exact same computer or equivalent, and because you're not as popular as me, you have to incentivize people to buy yours instead of mine. If they're otherwise the same, how are you going to do that? You lower your price. In order to lower your price, you may have to cut some corners, such as not providing support or not having a website, etc., etc. And as long as the buyer knows that going in, everybody should be happy. But when it's not disclosed and you think, as a buyer, that they're both the same and the only difference is the price, it is rarely, if ever, the case in any example, in anything you buy in this world, unless the price is like 10 cents, if it's insignificant. But if it's a significant price savings, there's a cut somewhere. You've got to know that. So with that, either that or you're buying something used, returned, or fell off the back of a truck kind of deal. But that's not a regular purchase. In other words, that would be very limited supply available at that price point. And that would be an exception, but you should automatically know that as a buyer, that you're not buying something new. And then that would explains the cheaper price, and it explains the lack of support, yada, yada, yada. Now, some people don't care about price as much as they care about making sure they got something really good, something with good support, something with good build quality, a good warranty, and then the price falls second. In my experience in this industry, I've only ran into a handful of customers that think that way, but there are people, and you might be one of them, who would rather pay for the name brand, knowing you're paying more, because you believe either in loyalty to that brand, or you just have a peace of mind where you've had a great past experience and you feel like you would be punishing them for doing nothing wrong by going to a competitor. The reason we're not covering those big brands is because I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, more than 98% of our viewers want a deal. They don't care about the brand name. Now, if I'm wrong about that, you let me know. So for the vast majority of our audience, they want to know, how can I save some money and not get ripped off? Based on that, we're looking at smaller name brands of mini PCs, specifically mini PCs lately, but we've also looked at some NASs and things like that as well, from lesser known names, to determine if they're worthy of consideration. So in that vein, we had ordered a Getorli and we reviewed it. I think we bought it, but I can't remember now, going back. I think this is our second or third one now. And one of the concerns that we had is they had no web presence at all, and therefore no driver downloads. And we had a few other concerns, and we let them know, and they heard us. And they acknowledged every single point we made and said they've addressed it. So let's start with the website. When you buy a computer from a company, I would expect there to be a company website and a company support, for emailing support or chatting, maybe even a phone number, depending if they're only in Asia and they're 12 hours difference, it's the middle of the night over there, it wouldn't make sense to call. So they should have at least an email address or a web form, for inquiries. And of course, drivers. The other issue we run into is the version of Windows they've installed. Is it an international version, or is it the version I use? A lot of times these machines coming from Asia use an international Windows installer. It's slightly different and may actually pull up language in the default language. So in this case, most recently we're seeing Chinese characters popping up on certain menus. Not everyday menus, but like the advanced startup menu, which most people would never run. And instead of saying, please wait, it says, I guess, please wait in Chinese, which is, Mandarin or Cantonese, I don't know. I can't read it. Using the US-based installer, that would never happen. It doesn't really affect how Windows works or compatibility. It's just a level of comfort.
You need a Babelfish.
Need a Babelfish?
Yeah.
Just type Babelfish. It's right there on the internet.
You have email.
I have email. All right, thank you. We'll get to that in just a second. So basically, when we looked at the Getorli, we couldn't find any website. We couldn't find any information about the company. And we said, look, this is concerning. If you want to do business in the United States, you need to have a website. And look, you and I can set up our own website. We don't need to be a big company with a developer and all kinds of budget. You and I can do that for like $50, maybe even less. It's easy, just for fun. And then you can use Google Drive for free to host any files like drivers. There's no reason for a company to be selling on Amazon to not at least have some kind of web presence. I don't find any excuse for it. And I guess Getorli agreed. And so they say they've got a website now. So before we even open the box and look, let's just see if this is true. Let's go to Google, and let me share the screen. Come on, Google. See if that works. There we go. And we're looking for Getorli. And there's GetorliPC.com. Now, this didn't exist before. Now, Getorli and Glorlin are the same company. I only saw the name Glorlin for the very first time last week while looking for some inexpensive mini PCs on Amazon. And I wondered if those two might be related because the names sound the same, and now I know. So here's a website. There's the product catalog, right? This is all standard. Again, anybody selling computers on Amazon ought to at least do this minimum. And then on top of that, we've got downloads. So hopefully we have downloads for the 103, which is what they sent us to review today, which is a 7430U or a 5300U. I guess they have two different versions of it. We'll see which one they sent us here in a moment. And it says driver download. If I click on that, it goes to Google Drive. Perfect. File is too large. We'll download it. It's 1.1 gig, which is actually pretty small for drivers. And we'll just go ahead and hit download anyway. And as that goes and downloads, we will continue on back to camera 1. So one of my first concerns was that lack of a website, the lack of support, the lack of driver being provided by the manufacturer, where we had to use somebody else, some other manufacturer's drivers, which is embarrassing. That should be humiliating. And apparently they felt that way too because they've resolved it. Once I brought it to their attention, you know, some companies will say thank you and then they don't do anything. They acted on it. So kudos to them that they are doing the right thing and trying to grow this company, not just trying to make a buck and then vanish. Because if they still weren't providing a website, then we wouldn't have this here on the bench. This discussion took place in email negotiations prior to them sending it, though no money is exchanging hands. I won't spend 2 or 3 hours on a dedicated video on their product if it's not something I know right out of the gate, right before I even receive it, that I'm not going to like it, because we already know where it fell short in the first review. There's no reason to do any follow-up reviews or any reviews of new products unless those initial issues have been resolved, and it appears they have been. Now, I'm not saying the website's not without, you know, any particular errors or coming up short in some way. I haven't looked at it that closely, but the very basics are there, and that's good enough for me. Obviously, because we agreed to say, yeah, send it along. We very much want to look at this for sure. So then the question is, what is it? Well, what we've got, if we go to their website, you can also purchase from them directly, I think. Let's go back to the window capture. Here's the link in our video notes for the Getorli GT103. It's a Ryzen 7 6800. That's got, I want you to pay attention to this part here. 32 gigs of soldered on RAM, right? LP means low power, which almost always translates to soldered on RAM. If it didn't have the LP in front of it, then it's probably socketable. 1 terabyte, not 256, not 512 of NVMe, not SATA. Okay, so right there, that's, how much money is that? $400 for those two parts, the 32 gigs and the 1 terabyte? Between $300 and $400, I'd guess. Let's call it $300 just for those two parts. It's got support for up to 3 displays at 4K at the same time, Wi-Fi 6 with Bluetooth 5.3 with dual LAN. And of course, you can use it for work, gaming, design, home office, etc. They want $699. So you've got to subtract out the value of the RAM and the NVMe from that. Now, obviously, they can't sell this bare bones because the RAM is soldered in. They offer 30-day returns. When you hit buy now, does it go to Amazon or do they, oh, they're selling it directly. Very good. Okay. But at Amazon, you can buy it for $5.99. And Amazon, you've got 30-day free returns to Amazon. And it looks like if we ordered it today, we'd get it in 2 days. So basically, half of the cost of this unit, if it's even, I mean, half, it seems a little cheap for $300 for 32 gigs of RAM and terabyte storage. Seems a little bit cheap, but I'm just gonna put it that way to kind of give you an example of where we're at with component pricing. You're buying a $300 computer. If this was available, bare bones, this would be a $300 computer. If it were possible that you could put your own RAM in, and you put your own NVMe drive, and you put your own operating system, you could take $300 off of this. So before you say that's expensive, you've got to consider what it's coming with. 32 gigs is much, much more than 8 gigs and double 16, which is what we're seeing on a lot of these really price-conscious machines. And it's also not a budget machine. We're up in the upper echelon of the Ryzen 7, although granted it's only a 6800H. It's still a lot newer and more powerful than most computers that sell bare bones at $300 is what I'm trying to get at. So just keep all that in mind. It's got Windows 11 Pro on it. It says here the graphics are built into the Radeon 7 6800H or the Radeon 680M. And a little bit about the storage. It doesn't tell us if it's Gen 3 or Gen 4. We'll find out. We don't know who makes the Wi-Fi network card or the wired network card. We'll find that out. And they've got a 1-year warranty. Now, granted, you know, other companies may offer 2- and 3-year warranties, but that is built into the price. They won't be this cheap, generally speaking, but that's for you to do your research on. And if they were the same price or less, it probably wouldn't be by much. But again, this is where we start getting into some muddy waters where I cannot advise you which value is the best in your perspective. And just scrolling through, do they have any feedback on this at all? They've got 6 reviews on this, averaging 4.8 out of 5. But are those people who bought it, or are those people who got a free yeah, this is a free review. This is a free review. This is a free review. They're all free. Okay, so it's very easy to like a product when you didn't pay for it, right? If somebody sends you $600 and says, do you like my $600? Yes. So I don't know how much you can rely on these Vine reviews. Also, if the Vine review didn't like it and they were honest and said, I don't like it, they probably wouldn't get any more free stuff to review. See what I'm getting at there? It doesn't make anybody evil or anything, but it's kind of inherent that if you want to keep getting free stuff, you got to play along. Why would a company send you free stuff at their expense for you to insult them? You wouldn't do that, would you? That'd be pretty stupid. So we're going to do a real review today. Okay, we don't do that free bias stuff. My feeling is, look, if you've got a product that has issues that we're concerned about, we're going to bring it to your attention so you can't claim you didn't know. And what you choose to do with that will determine if we give you any more chances. Some companies will hear it as an insult and think we're idiots and say thanks for the feedback, and we won't talk to each other ever again. Good riddance if that's the way a company wants to behave. We don't need them. We don't need to give them any more exposure. They want to go down that path. That is not a path we go down, so they will go without us. On the other hand, in this example, we mentioned some concerns with Getorli earlier on. They addressed them. We did this, you mentioned that. We did this in response. That's what we want to see, because that tells us we've got a company here that's trying harder. They're acknowledging our concerns and addressing them, and then saying, okay, now that we've addressed them, you want to give us another shot now? Yes, I do. And if we have any issues here, we'll repeat. But some companies, they don't see that as help. They just see it as you correcting them, making them feel stupid. That's a bad attitude if you're in business. When you're dealing with somebody like me, I'm basically working as a consultant for your company for free. And if you want to dismiss that, consumers do this as well. When something is free, they generally will throw it in the trash. It doesn't matter what it is. They don't value free. When somebody pays for it out of their hard-earned earnings, they're going to be much more critical and intolerant of things that aren't acceptable to them. They'll be more vocal about it. They'll be emotionally upset. Somebody gives you something $600 and it falls short, who cares? You still got it for free. You didn't sacrifice anything. So I'm happy to see Getorli have their website up and drivers. That's how it should have been out of the gate. They got a little late start, but that's okay. You can't do everything overnight. It takes some time, and they addressed it. So I am eagerly anticipating reviewing this unit because I think for this price, this might be a little hidden secret that only people who know will know, that you can get this much power and performance for that price. But let's find out if it's true. Now, I don't care about the unboxing experience. Some people go, well, look at how it ships. I mean, this is sketch. Is it? If I sold you a pair of brand name shoes like Nike, and I put them in a plain cardboard box instead of a Nike branded box, and the shoes were discounted, would you pay extra to get the Nike box? Would you not buy it because you didn't get the original box? Some people are collectors and they need to have the original box. Okay. Most people are buying shoes because they need to protect their feet. So some people don't buy shoes to protect their feet. They buy them because they're collectors or they see them as an investment opportunity. And it's important that everything is exactly right. Those aren't the people looking for a discount. That's what I'm trying to tell you. There's two different buyers in the world today. Those with excess and those with too little, just trying to make ends meet. And I think the people with too little trying to make ends meet makes up the vast majority of the population of this planet. So these videos are primarily directed to the every person for this reason. And for this reason, I'm going to throw the box out anyway, right? So what do I care about branding on the box? That is the least of my concerns. I don't think Getorli needs to address this. It's going to cost more if they do that. That means they have to charge more. And before you know it, you'll be competing against HP and Dell and their prices. And because of HP and Dell's longevity in the business, where you don't have that, it would make sense that a customer goes with a tried and true tested brand if the price is otherwise the same. So if they can save a few bucks by, you know, just putting a sticker on a brown box, I'm good with that. Let's take a look at what's inside. We've got an owner's manual. We've got the mini PC right here. It's like a light blue, kind of silver with blue or gray. Quite sure. There's screws on the bottom that we can access with holes in the rubber feet, so you don't have to take the rubber feet out. What a concept. There's your dual LAN right there. Barrel style power plug, HDMI, DisplayPort, USB 3, USB 2. Nothing on this side, nothing on that side. Come around to the front, there's our power button, headphone or speaker jack or headset, USB type C. That's probably USB 3. And then two more USB 3 blue type A USB ports. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 USB ports in total. I'd say the average mini PC has 4 and the upper echelon has 6. This one falls right in the middle with 5. Going back to the box, we've got HDMI. We've got a cloverleaf style, laptop style power connector. We've got a mounting bracket. I don't know if that's VESA compatible, but it's for mounting the computer, you know, on a wall, under a desk, maybe even behind your monitor if it's VESA compatible. And the screws and the bracket are there if you want to do that. That's also why there's a short HDMI cable. The last thing in the box is our power brick. This is a laptop style power brick where you've got a separate power cable and then a separate cable coming out of the brick to go to the PC. I like this because it gives me more cable. We've looked at other mini PCs, especially the budget ones, where they include like a wall wart, and that cable coming out can't be 5 feet long, and it's a long run. Well, I only need about 8 feet here, but maybe you need 12 feet. And the fact of the matter is, if this plugged directly into the wall, we'd only have this much cable to deal with. But by including this additional cable, more similar to a laptop, now we've effectively doubled our length of cable. And you can buy these on Amazon all day long. It's a standard cloverleaf power cable. They make these in all various lengths. I've got one down here, it's 12 feet long, so I won't even need this one. I'll keep it in the box. And since I'm not mounting this computer against anything, I don't need that HDMI cable. That's also a very short cable. And the instruction booklet, usually those are useless. And that's the end of that. That's all that's in there. So let's clear some room off the desk and set this down over here. We have a warning sticker that says something. I need my other glasses for this. Warning, during the system boot process, if you cannot log in to your personal account, please turn off the Wi-Fi LAN, select the skip option, and then log into your personal account in the system. Effectively, this is the same sticker that we see in other mini PCs where they cover up the ports so you can't plug it in, and they'll have a warning sticker that says, wait till you boot up Windows, get into the desktop, then plug in. We agree, 100%. That is a good standard practice to follow. And I'm going to plug this in like that. Then Mara says another email has come in. Let's stop for a minute and check those emails before I go much further. I'm debating right now if I should just open this up and take a look on the inside, or if we should fire it up first. Let me know what you'd like me to do in the chat room while I check email. Our friend Mark Gaines sends an Amazon gift card in lieu of a super chat. Thank you, Mark, and a generous contribution as always. We appreciate you, my friend. Cheers. Our friend Frankie B, whose computer came in for repair. I had ordered the wrong batteries for it. The connector is the wrong connector. I didn't realize. They have names. Now I know. And the benefit of ordering the wrong ones is that I might have other computers that require them, whether now or in the future. So I'll just keep them. They've got a good shelf life of around 10 years, so we should be good. I ordered the next day when I realized, you know, the connector was wrong. I did a little more research. Second time was the charm. Got the right ones. Those came in yesterday. Test fit it. Works perfectly. Fits like a glove. And all the issues are resolved. So we should be able to get Frankie's computer out to him on Monday. There's no sense trying to send it out today or the weekend. It'll just sit. So we'll get it out to him Monday. He'll probably have it Wednesday. So Frankie, I'm assuming you're out there watching. If there's anything you want us to address or you want to talk about, you know, replacing it with something else, I don't know why you want to do it, but if you want to, you've been very, very kind and generous to us, and we want to make sure that we take this opportunity to show you our appreciation. So don't hold back. If there's anything you want changed or you want us to look at, please let us know in email. So we've got till Monday. It's been my routine lately to go to the FedEx store after the shows, the members only show on Monday. I've been doing that every week for about 5 or 6 weeks now. So they're getting to see me on Mondays over there. Oh, he's back. But right now, I think you're the only thing going out, Frankie. And like I said, if that goes out Monday before 5 o'clock my time, you should get it Wednesday. And Frankie submits a very generous contribution again. So thank you for that, Frankie. He says, this is my way of saying thank you for your help and all you do. Frankie's extraordinarily generous and kind, and is a pleasure to have in our everybody in our community. But that generosity from Frankie is extraordinary, and we appreciate that so much. And anything that we can do for our members, we will bend over backwards as much as we can for our members. And we bend over backwards for the non-members too, but the flexibility is based on, you know, how much is it going to cost us. And for people that are supporters of the channel, quite frankly, these videos would not exist without them. So our deepest gratitude to everybody that supports us, and our deepest gratitude to all the viewers who enjoy our content as we find alternate ways to pay for it. Because quite frankly, the YouTube advertising revenue has gone effectively away. With the price of gas going up, I'm not even sure I make enough money on advertising revenue to buy 1 tank of gas at this point. But it's because of the supporters. So all those people you see in the chat room in green, if you're not green, it's because of them. You're here at all. This video would not exist. That's the reality of it. Their voluntary generosity is critical to the success of this channel. We hope that we gain more supporters so we can do more on this channel. But in the meantime, shout out and a thank you to Getorli for sending us the machine, because normally we'd have to buy this. Dazzle wants me to open it. Andy wants me to open it. Phil Stodd says, fire it up. Do we fire it up first, or do we open it first? Caniac says, maybe you should fire it up just to make sure it boots properly. So that's a good point. And I recommend you do this at home. When you get a brand new computer, turn it on before you modify it. Because how will you know if you're modifying it is what's causing it to no longer work? Or was it shipped to you broken? You'll never know. And it's always never going to be your fault. Always never. It'll never be your fault. Like in my experience, customers never say, maybe I screwed it up. They say, you sold me a bad computer. I go, why do you say that? They go, it won't turn on after I opened it up and changed the RAM out. It won't turn on. I say, well, did it turn on before then? Well, I don't know. I mean, you sold me a working computer, didn't you? So therefore, you sold me a non-working computer. I'd say, well, I think there's a flaw in your logic. Yes, I sold you a working computer, and until you opened it and modified it, you broke it. It was working until you did that. Well, I don't know that. Well, why not? Because I didn't fire it up first. Well, maybe you should have. Okay. Now what are we going to do? I'm going to take care of you. Don't worry about it. I just want you to know, in the future, for this reason, don't be upset. Don't be angry. You could have known all by yourself if what you did caused it, if you'd have just fired it up first. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to insult you. I'm not trying to talk down to you. I'm saying moving forward, now that you've had this experience, maybe you should turn it on first before you do any modifications. You don't have to if you don't want to. I'm still going to warranty it. I'm still going to take care of you. But you may not need to get me involved at all. So for that reason, I think I'll follow my own advice and let's fire it up, make sure it works before we open it up. So to do that, I need an HDMI cable, a keyboard, a mouse, and some power. We're not going to plug it into the network, and we'll go through our Windows out-of-box experience, and maybe we'll do a clean reinstall of Windows 11 just to see if all the drivers are there, what drivers are needed. We can kind of get an idea for performance based on the processor. It'll perform like any other similar processor made by other manufacturers. I don't expect it to be very different one way or the other in regards to performance. We'll have to just, check it for heat and noise, I suppose, under extreme conditions. I'm going to plug my keyboard and mouse here in the USB 2 port back here. That's what that's for. Low speed port is for keyboard and mice. High speed port would be for like a flash drive or, somewhere where the speed matters. If plugging my keyboard and mouse into a faster USB port resulted in me typing faster, trust me, I'd be using it. But since it doesn't, you'd be wasting a fast USB port. Let's see, so we're not plugging into the internet. I got HDMI plugged in. I need power. Like I said, I go on Amazon. I buy like a 12-foot long power cable. And you can see I don't have the problem of worrying about the cable being really tight and pulling the computer off the desk, which you've seen happen on other live reviews. And that's typically common on the really cheap, really inexpensive budget line mini PCs, and it's part of how they keep the cost down, right? So I can't really complain about it. If you want this kind of an adapter, you need a higher end PC, and it doesn't have to be like 3 times higher end. It could just be a smidge higher end to get you to a separate power brick. Also, I always mention, and as a reminder, these power bricks are not made by the mini PC makers. They're made by a company that makes power bricks. So therefore, if this power brick were to get separated from the mini PC in the future, like maybe you're moving, it's been a year since you bought it, you don't even think about it anymore, you gotta move, and then you start unpacking the boxes and you've got 3 or 4 of these bricks and you don't know which brick goes to which device. If you plug it in because the cable fits, you will likely have smoke, and then you can just throw that whole thing into the trash can. So I would take a minute to get a silver Sharpie marker or a label maker that you can print out that this is for the Getorli, or even if you have many Getorlis, GT103 Getorli, something like that. I don't have very good handwriting, but if you're asking me, would I rather see my ugly handwriting on this thing in the corner of the floor somewhere, or not know where this goes to in a couple of years when these get separated and I have to guess, or I've got to like look at all the specs on the stickers and compare them? I just want to plug in and go. So I'll take the ugly writing, or again, a cheap label maker. They're like $15 for a label maker. In fact, I was at Goodwill. They had them for $3. You just have to buy the spool of the tape, put it in there, and you got yourself a label maker. And label it, be done with it. Companies like Dell, HP, Lenovo, they have their own branding on their power bricks. That does cost more money. So we're right back to it, right? Understand what you're getting for your money, and that way you don't have any buyer's remorse with any surprises. That's my goal here, is to make sure you fully understand what you're getting for the money. That way, if you agree and say, hey, that's a good deal, I'm interested in it, you should know exactly what you're getting. The odds of you returning it should be next to zero. All right, let's fire it up. Hit the power button. There's a little blue light that comes on in the power button. And let's go over to HDMI 3 over here and take a look at our boot screen. Let me minimize camera 1 too, so you can see me at the same time. Put myself down here. I just want people to have a good experience. I'm not a gambler, so this idea that you're going to drop $600 on a machine and say, let's just see what happens, you're welcome to do it. If you've got that time and that kind of patience. I'm used to dealing with customers when they need a computer. They need it right now. They need it ASAP. A lot of people are reactive. Something happened, and it happened at the worst possible time, and they need a solution right now. And they don't want to be taken advantage of. So find me a good computer at a good price right now. And so that is often the case, where people will put something off because they don't want to do it. I don't want to buy a new computer. But when they're forced to, then at that point, they don't want to get ripped off, right? They want to make sure they get something decent, preferably something better than what they had. And most importantly, the likely reason they never replaced it before was they don't have the money. So it's got to be within the budget that they can pay it off or pay for it. So, you know, could this be a consideration? That's what we're here to determine. Let's get rid of camera 1 so we can see the whole screen. And let's go through the out-of-box experience here. Continue in English. United States is my region. United States is my keyboard. I don't use any other languages, so I don't need any other keyboard layout. License agreement, you have to accept. You don't have any choice. Username, I'll just put in user and then leave the password blank. We should see the privacy settings come up next. There they are. I'll leave location settings on. That'll take care of the date and time now and in the future. Every day it will sync that date and time up every single day, multiple times a day, so I don't worry about losing minutes or seconds or any manual changes regarding daylight saving time. Just let the computer do it for you. All the others I turn off. That's just my personal preference. You do it your way. All right, with all that done, we've now provided it all the information it needs to know to finish the Windows 11 setup. And when we get to the desktop, we can plug it into the network. But we don't want to, if we had it plugged into the network right now, it'd be downloading updates. And if any of those updates caused a system issue, we wouldn't know. Is it a system issue from the factory of the mini PC maker, or is it a system issue from the update? So we're right back to square one, where you just don't know any. So basically, by doing one bite at a time, instead of trying to put the whole sandwich in your mouth, you get to savor it a little bit more, and you can determine if the sandwich is bad or just that one bite was bad, right? Did you just get a bad spot, or, you know, was there no seasoning on that bite, but the rest of the bites have seasoning? If you put the whole thing in your mouth, you just dilute the entire experience, and it's likely a choking hazard, and it's uncomfortable. So you really should enjoy this process because you should only have to do it right out of the box. Once you've done this correctly, you should never have to do it again for the life of the computer. That's where we're at today with our operating systems. Reinstalling an operating system after you've set it up used to be an annual procedure with Windows XP just because of bit rot. These days, Windows 10 and Windows 11, they do such a good job maintaining themselves that those days are long behind us now. Now, I do see some modification to the desktop, which is not normal from a stock Windows unmodified installer. One of which is this control panel here and this PC. These are not by default on the desktop. That's okay. It's a system modification that's allowed. They're not hacking anything. But I feel better or more comfortable if I just had a bone stock install with no modifications allowed or otherwise, unless I made them. Regardless, it looks like we're in 4K, so let's drop the resolution down. Let's go to display settings, and we'll go to 1920 by 1080. Right there, keep that. Let's look in the device manager and our system properties. So we'll start with system properties and verify the RAM and CPU and everything and version of Windows. So yeah, there's our Ryzen 7 6800H. There's our 32 gigs of DDR5 that's soldered in. There's our Windows 11 Pro, verified. It is 24H2. We probably won't see 25H2 installed by default. Well, we should start seeing it about now. It takes about 6 months for new images to be created by the manufacturers, and then for the distribution chain to then fulfill the warehouse orders. So right now, 24H2, we'll still get some machines all the way to the end of this year probably with 24H2, but we should start seeing 25H2 moving forward much more often. Regardless, not a big deal. Let's go to the device manager. So I'll right click on the start button, go to the device manager, and here it's going to show us all of our drivers are already installed. And under network adapters, we can see Realtek makes both the LAN adapter, which is a 1 gig, right? Is that 1 gig? No, yeah, there are 2 LAN adapters. So PCIe Gigabit Ethernet Family Controller means 1 gig. It's gigabit, not multi-gig. It's not 2 gig, it's not 2.5, it's not 5, it's not 10. It's single gig, 1 gig. And there's 2 of them. And the Wi-Fi 6 is also made by Realtek. So you can get drivers for these from Realtek, or you should be able to get them right there from Getorli. That being said, I think I want to do a complete wipe and reinstall of the operating system just to test those drivers. But first, let's shut it down and open it up. We know it works. Let's not go any further. Let's shut this down, and let's see how serviceable the unit is with regards to upgradability. So we'll come back over here to camera 1, wait for that to turn off. Start unplugging everything. And I'll set some items aside here so we have some room to work. Don't mind me. Let's go full screen on camera 1 so you can see what I'm doing here. And we'll start by removing these 4 screws underneath. Let's go over to camera 2, in fact, give you a close-up of that. All right, so I need my heavy-duty glasses for this. And my screwdriver, which let's see if this screwdriver will work. No, it's too big. I need a smaller. How about this one? Too little. I'm like the Princess and the Pea over here. Let's grab the Natch toolkit because we guaranteed we got the bit in there. And this bad boy is cheaper than an iFixit toolkit. And it gives you, instead of, breaking this off into 6 different possible toolkits the way iFixit does, this gives you pretty much all of the tools, except for spudgers, for less than the price of one iFixit toolkit. So right across the top, we've got some bits that I think maybe this Phillips right here will do the job. Let's find out. I'm going to guess. There it is. Dead on. There's one. Now you'll notice when I lift up this, the magnetism on this is pretty weak. Notice that screw didn't come out. That's what this is for. We can run this through. That might be demagnetized. One way is magnetized, one way is demagnetized, and that way you can charge up the driver. Make your life a lot easier. Magnets are not dangerous to computers. Magnets used to be dangerous to your floppy disk or magnetic storage, like a VHS tape, a cassette tape. We don't use that stuff anymore, so magnets are completely safe to use around computers. That may be news to you if you've been using computers a long time and haven't been keeping your knowledge up to date. Now I'm going to pay attention to the way this is facing before I take it off. The rear of the unit is facing me, the front of the unit is facing you, and that label is facing me. So when I go to put this back on, the other thing I can use as an indicator are these two holes for the mounting bracket matched to these two standoffs. What's interesting is they have a 2.5-inch drive bay in here, but you could not put a 2.5-inch drive bay with this fan sticking up. See how much that fan sticks up? So it looks to me, for some reason or another, I don't know why, they have repurposed this for cooling. We've seen units where this is turned around, where it sticks out the other side, so you can still put a drive in here. But it doesn't look like anything's holding that in. It looks like we can just lift it off. No? No, something's still holding it in. Could just be thermal tape. Let's see. Yep, that's what it is. It's the thermal tape. That's nice. There's no additional screws to remove. Be careful of this wire. It's very easy to break that wire. I'll set this aside. In fact, I'll just take this off. Just remove it. That way I can bring this unit up to the camera and show you. So there's a very delicate connector here. Whenever you put these connectors on or take them off, you must grab it by the connector. Don't try to pull it by the wires, or you're going to find yourself holding the wires with the connector still locked in. And then you're going to go, uh-oh. That's not a good sound to be making when you're working on a computer, especially if it belongs to somebody else. It's pretty bad when you do it to yourself. But when it belongs to somebody else, oh boy. Hope you're planning on buying them a new computer. All right, so here is the close-up of the inside, and as you can see, there's no RAM for you to change out. It is soldered in, but we do have two NVMe slots, one here and one here. And underneath this one, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see that, there's your Wi-Fi card. So you can upgrade the Wi-Fi. You would just simply remove the screw here to take the first NVMe out. And then there's a second screw right at the end of the Wi-Fi card inside, just like many other mini PCs we've looked at. And then you can add a secondary storage here. We just don't know if these are Gen 3 or Gen 4, but we're about to find out. And that's pretty much all there is in there. I'm sure there's a BIOS battery in there somewhere, but it must be on the other side because I don't see it. But I'm sure it's in there somewhere. That's unfortunate. This is an antenna wire, if you're wondering what that is. That's going to the Wi-Fi card. I'll look underneath the NVMe drive since we've got it open just to verify that the CMOS battery isn't hiding back there. I don't see anything that would indicate it's there, but I'll just double check. Well, that is a tight fit. Yeah. Yeah. So the BIOS battery must be on the other side of the board. I don't know how you're going to get to that, but you should need to get to it for about 5 or 6 years anyway. So, okay, let me put this drive back in. I'm not exactly sure how I'm supposed to do that. It goes here first. Oh, it just barely fits. I don't know why I had such a hard time taking it out. That fits fine. Let's put that back in. Let's put the back on. Let's fire it up. So that's all there is to service on this. And the screw for the other NVMe drive is already installed into the standoff. So you don't have to worry about finding that later. It's inside where it belongs. Our little fan can go back on, and that went, how did that go? It was like this, wasn't it? And that's a nice touch. Given that there's no RAM under here to cool, one might argue that this fan isn't even needed. And where it is needed, the manufacturers don't include a fan. But it's not like anybody ever complains their computer's running too cool. So it's nice to see. On the other hand, as long as it's not adding any noise. The whole bracket itself acts as a heat sink. So that in and of itself with that thermal tape should be all it needs to keep it cool. Everything on the other side of the board, your CPU, etc., that's going to be cooled by a fan up here, where these vents are going to exhaust the air. That's your main source of heat. And these are kind of blocked away into two halves, the top half and the bottom half. They need to be cooled separately. But I would argue this probably doesn't need this fan, just given it's got one NVMe drive with thermal tape onto a giant heatsink. It's probably overkill, but as long as it's quiet and we don't really notice it, why not? Now the trick is to get this little plug back in. It's super tiny. It only goes in one way, so if you put it in backwards, it's not going to sit. That's good. We'll set that back down. Make sure all the holes line up properly, that I've got that in the right position. I think that looks pretty good. And what did I say? The rear was facing me and the label was facing me, so it would be this direction here. And then I can look through the holes. Boy, this thing slides all over. Nothing really locks it in place. So, there's also, this is completely flat. So there's nothing for this to sit down into. It just rests on top. These screws are absolutely critical to hold everything in place. It would be nice to see some sort of keyed notch that this would fit into and hold it in place for us. So I can kind of look through this and just find one place to tighten it down first, but don't over tighten it because you're going to need to move this around. And the tighter you make one screw, the less flexible it'll be in movement. But you see how easy that was for me to find that hole. I can't see it anymore, right? All I'm seeing is what you're seeing, which is the back of this. I can't tell if I'm lined up with the screw, which also means I can't tell if I'm lined up with the hole of that heatsink, that giant, where the fan is, that plate that we put on. So we got to go through two sets of holes that we can't see to find the brass fitting that locks into. Also, don't over tighten these screws. Get them till they stop. Right there, and don't go any further. Because all you're going to do is make it harder for you to open if you do that. And if you strip out or cam out the top of the screw, you're going to be in a world of hurt, my friend. For something you did that was completely unnecessary. Now you will see that there's a slight gap right here, but it matches the gap here. So it's not going to sit completely flush, and that is how it is intended to be designed. We also have a sticker that says if you want to enter setup, press F2 to enter the BIOS, or if you want the boot options, it says to press F12. That's what those words are there. Okay, looks good. My only question now is that Gen 3, is it Gen 4? I don't know. Oh, what am I doing? Put the handle back in. Probably going to need the handle in the future. Keep that all together. Nothing worse than having half of your tools. Unless you have half of my tools. That would be worse. Where's my tools? Okay, let's plug it back in. And let's do this. Power, keyboard and mouse. Yeah. Let me have my Windows 11 right here. This is our installer, which I've got videos that show you how to make this for free, legit, from Microsoft. Let's plug into the USB 3 port back here. And then I need to grab the HDMI cable. And without having any backup and no resources for drivers, doing this live and unscripted with a machine we've never before seen, let's find out what happens if we wipe it and we have to start with nothing. Do they provide everything we need? We're going to find out right now. Again, we're not plugging the internet into this. So I'm going to turn the power on. We're going to come over to HDMI port 3 once again. And while we're waiting on that, there it goes. Let me bring camera 1 back up in the corner like I did before. So here and then here. So I'm just letting this boot normally. And then what I'm going to do, you've seen me do this dozens of times before, is go to the Start menu. Go to Settings. We're going to go to Windows Update. Even though we're not plugged in to the internet, we'll go to Advanced Options, Recovery, Advanced Startup, Restart Now, and Confirm. So now instead of pressing F12 to get the boot menu, which I could do, right, you get your timing right, I'd just rather do it this way. I'm instructing the computer to give me a special startup menu so I have time to see my options and not blindly press keys in empty times that I hope is the right time. This is a much more positive way to do this in the sense that I'm getting the proper feedback and that there's no timing involved. You just read the screen and it waits for you. So here we want to use a device right here. That's the option we want. And we're going to use a UEFI removable device. It's not a DVD and it's not a network device. So what are we left with? This one. Now in theory, it should reboot and start up off of the flash drive, which we'll know because it'll start Windows 11 setup. If that doesn't work, it'll just take us back into Windows. Let's see which one happens. I can't tell you where it's booting from right now. I can't tell. Oh, yeah, we started off the flash drive. Let's pick next, US keyboard. Yeah, we want to install, agree to everything will be deleted. And we're going to erase everything on this flash drive. Not flash drive, everything on the internal storage drive. Let me get rid of camera 1. We'll hit accept on the license agreement. And it's going to look for installation where it can install, the installation drive. In our case, that's going to be disk 0. But why do we have 4 disk 0s? Because there are 4 partitions. There's a recovery partition. This is all the stuff Windows creates. If we want to erase and do everything from scratch, then we need to delete every one of those. We only want it to say unallocated space and nothing else for disk 0. So just keep repetitively deleting each partition, knowing you are wiping out the drive with no recovery. Okay? Until you're down to just 1 disk 0 that says unallocated space. That would be like a brand new, fresh out of the box drive that you ordered from Amazon. That's how it should look. Because they don't know if you're going to use it in a Mac or if you're going to use it in a PlayStation. The file formats are not compatible, so they're like, you put whatever file format you need on here. We'll send it to you completely empty. That includes the partitioning. So what we're doing is we're emulating a brand new drive installation with a never before installed Windows. far as the computer knows, it's the same as a brand new install. Disk 1 is our USB flash drive that contains our Windows installer. Leave that alone. You can tell from the size, 16 gigs is a flash drive. 1 meg is a partition on the flash drive. 953 gigs is pretty darn close to a terabyte. That's obviously our internal storage, which is also disk 0. So this isn't rocket science if you just pay attention. And hit next once we've selected disk 0. Then it's going to confirm this is what you want to do. Yeah, hit install and we're off to the races. In fact, it's probably faster for us to reinstall Windows 11 with 25H2 using the most recent build from Microsoft. Their most recent media creation tool already includes all the updates all the way through April. So instead of getting 25H2 and all the updates prior to that, plus all the updates after that, which is what we would do with the stock install, by installing fresh and clean, I'm getting a US-based version, not an international version of Windows 11. I don't have any modifications to my desktop. Even though they're allowed, it's not stock, so I want it stock. And I will have to put the drivers in as a result, but it should auto-activate. It should not ask me for a product key. If you're paying close attention, you'll notice it did not ask us if we want Home or Pro. Did you guys notice that? Why didn't it ask? Because it already found the key in the BIOS and it knew that key was for Pro. Therefore, it doesn't ask us. Therefore, it doesn't ask us for either what version we want or what product key we have. It's all auto-provided through the BIOS. You guys don't need to do all this stuff by hand anymore. Let the computer do the work. Welcome to 2026. Life gets easier. Let the computer do more. And in 2028 and in 2030, it's going to do even more. And I'm going to be telling you to stop doing some of the things I'm doing today because it won't be necessary anymore. Unless you're working on older machines, then the older information applies. Other than that, you're really doing yourself and your customers a service by staying up to date. You'll be quicker, you'll be right more often, and right the first time when you claim to fix something, they're not going to call you back because it's still not fixed. That keeps you happy, that keeps them happy, all for the free price of the knowledge. Bring camera 1 back here and let me look in our chat room while we're waiting for our install. Andy says he's got a Nemo laptop that has the same Ryzen 6800H. Yeah, that'll be the same processor. These are using laptop parts in mini PCs, or what we call mobile parts. Mark Leibowitz, who runs a computer repair business out of Chicago, said he had a client call him because the client said he's been unable to cancel his Comcast business phone service. So Mark asked him, did you try calling Comcast? And then he just got the sound of crickets chirping. I got to call them to cancel my phone service. Always good to use the phone for stuff like that when you're dealing with a local service provider. If you're dealing with an international service provider, then you deal with maybe difficult to understand accents and time zones. But if it's a local service, strongly recommend use the local phone. Our friend Buster says good night. He's gonna try and get some rest. Right on, Buster. Have a good evening. Thank you again for all of your support and generosity, and I hope you sleep well, my friend. Essential Working Too Hard just renewed membership. They are now a member for 31 months. Right on. Thank you for that. He says, hey, Carey and Mara and everyone in chat, happy Friday. Back at ya. Happy Friday to you. David Graham says it's 26H2 now. We won't see 26H2. Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you show me where you're getting your information? I'm tired of correcting people that just don't understand what they're typing. So let's take it the other way and let me assume you know something I don't. What gives you the idea there's such a thing as a 26H2? There will be in the fall. But I want David Graham to explain what he's telling me, because if you feel the need to correct me, you must know something I don't. So that's what we're here to do. If I've got some information wrong, please correct me. But if you're correcting me, I hope that you have some evidence to point to what you're referring to, right? A web link from Microsoft, or because I don't know what you're talking about. Frankie B. Carey says, I have a question about my mini PC. Did you see if it restarted when you plug in power? Yes, Frankie. That was the point of changing the BIOS battery. The BIOS battery was completely dead. And a faulty BIOS battery can create that very symptom. And it falls right into that category. So after changing the BIOS battery, I plugged it and unplugged it several times and it stays off. Plus it also keeps the date and time. But most importantly, it no longer turns on its own. And if you ever see that again, that is usually an indication. There's other reasons it can happen, but the most common reason that happens is the BIOS battery failed. So yeah, we're good. David Graham said, sorry, I misread my update. I see. Okay. It's all good. It's all good. We all get confused. This technology and all the terms they use, it's hard to keep up with all the different Wi-Fi standards, security standards, you know, all the different RAM standards and the different CPUs and the different sockets, the different chipsets. Yeah, it's a lot. All good. Luke Greenia says, Carey and Mara, thank you for all your hard work and taking care of me so quickly. It's greatly appreciated. And the wife will surely put the laptop through its paces when it arrives. I'll tell you a little story about shipping that laptop to Luke Greenia. Luke is in Vermont, clear across the country from where I am in Phoenix, Arizona. The last time we shipped a computer to him, it was twice the cost. Both he and I were both shocked at the price. I expected this laptop to cost around $60 to ship. They told me it'd be $110, $108 to ship this laptop. A laptop, little tiny 5-pound laptop. Because the package is so long, even though it's thin, I said, there's no way. That doesn't make any sense. Luke wants to support us here, but at that point, what I should have done is just returned it to Amazon for a full refund, and then use the money to buy it again, only change my shipping address to Luke's address, and it'll ship for free from Amazon and cost me $0. So I'm at the counter and I'm trying to work this out. A mini PC should cost about $40 to get there in 2 days. That's called FedEx One Rate. And to give you an idea of how good of a deal FedEx One Rate is, at $108, that's going FedEx Ground. It'll take a full 7 days to get there and cost 2.5 times more, right? 108 versus 40 in 7 days versus 2 days. It's 2.5 times more money to take 2.5 times longer. But they don't have a FedEx One Rate that meets those dimensions, so we don't have any choice. So I said, okay, you sell a specific box, FedEx does, that's all foam protected for laptops. What if we took the laptop out of the stock box, put it into one of your FedEx laptop specialty boxes? Well, the cost of the box, the shipping, it'll bring it to $80. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. So I said, okay, the laptop is in a box. That box, as you saw me unbox it, was in a box. And all I'm trying to do is put it in a third box because that was the way Amazon sent it to me. But I don't think the third box is necessary. But I don't like that the outer box says Firebat. It basically tells everybody what's inside of that box. So if you've got anybody dishonest, they might steal it. I said, what if we just, it looks like it's meant to be shipped in this outer box, that, you know, the second box. What would that cost me? $40. Okay, now we're under 60. I figured it'd be around 60. And when would I get there? It'll take 7 days to get there. Okay, so my only concern and my only anxiety is if, because the box is so lightweight, that FedEx doesn't throw it around or drop something heavy on it and crack the screen or physically damage the laptop. And I have to assume the manufacturer has designed their box specifically for that purpose, to withstand that kind of harsh handling. I am nervous. So Luke, when you get this thing, please let me know as soon as possible after you receive it that it arrives okay. The bottom line is, if it's broken, there's no returning it back to me. I will be forced to basically buy you a brand new laptop on Amazon, and this will be a big financial loss for me. Unfortunately, I didn't have much choice in this. once I was there and once we agreed to the deal, you know, I'm going to see it through, and it's probably going to be fine, but I'm nervous about it. But, you know, I'll take care of you either way. And if I have to buy you a second laptop directly from Amazon and ship it to you, then I will, and we just won't do that ever again. It doesn't make any sense. But I think it'll be just fine. But you'll find out. I think you'll get it Thursday. I shipped it yesterday. Said it's going to take a week, so by Thursday you should have it. I am nervous about it. I'm not comfortable with that at all, but I was obligated and committed and just going to hope for the best. And it's just not a problem we have with the mini PCs because they ship in a one-rate box. Those are routinely $40 and gets there in 2 days. Doesn't matter where it is in the United States. So it's always different with Luke. He's also kind of in a rural area there in Vermont. And I think there's an added charge for that as well. But it's like $8. It's not a big deal. Anyway, that was an interesting, you know, I thought I was going to be in and out. And I was at that counter a good 20 minutes as we worked out all the different possible configurations. That was fun. In retrospect, maybe what I should have done is just said, hey, if you like this laptop, just go ahead and order it off Amazon. On the other hand, the way it ships from Amazon, I didn't like the way the Windows was installed, and it is Windows 11 Home. I upgraded it to Pro for Luke and did a nice clean install so he gets, you know, my style. So it got Careyfied. So there is that difference that otherwise, you know, he could follow my steps. He knows what I do. He could do it himself, but it's already done. You should be able to take it out of the box and use it. Good to go. All right, let's answer these questions, these setup questions here. Let me get rid of camera one. Okay, United States. Yeah, this looks familiar, doesn't it? But you notice, do you see when we go back, if this was the international version, you'd see like parentheses. It would say English United States. Because this is an English United States version, it doesn't do that. So Windows 11 varies based on the country version that you're installing. And those little variations may equal discomfort to the end user if something's different. It doesn't mean the operating system's inferior or damaged in any way. It's that the customer feels something's different and therefore it's bad. So to avoid that scenario with customers, we always do everything the same. That means using the same installer of Windows 11, not to mix and match international installers with regional installers. So this is a regional installer for the US. And that's one way you can tell, is right up here. There's no parentheses. This is a very short line. Just says United States. We hit yes, and yes again, and skip. All these were doing exactly the same from the international version. It just looks a little different. Now here it says I don't have internet. And remember, it skipped that screen. So that was another modification that Getorli made, which is fine. It's not harmful. But this is what I'm accustomed to seeing on a clean install. And it's just a comfort level, not a security issue. And we answer these questions the same as we did before. And I'll hit accept. Here we go. Now, with that done, let's bring back camera one for a second. And you'll see I can unplug my Windows 11 flash drive. And that's already got 25H2 with all the April updates that came out the second Tuesday. There have been a couple other updates. There was a preview update released last night, which obviously we don't have that because it's not on here yet. But we shouldn't have much waiting in the way of updates. I am curious what the device manager looks like on a bone stock Windows 11 install and how much reliance we have on getting those drivers from Getorli. Sometimes you don't need any drivers at all. Sometimes you just plug it in, go to Windows Update, and Windows Update provides everything. But I wouldn't say that happens most of the time, but it does happen sometimes. Boss says he avoids FedEx like the plague. FedEx for me is much cheaper, and more reliable than UPS or the United States Postal Service. USPS has gotten really bad. Their hours, they close around 4 o'clock at the post offices near us. I'm still broadcasting at 4 o'clock. I can't get there on time. They often have a long line, and it's just, when I go to FedEx, I can hand them a box, like a mini PC, and I can say, I want you to put this into your box, and I want you to throw a little paper material they call RAM pack in there so the box doesn't slide around inside of the other one. You do it. You print the label. I'm not going to handwrite it. No one can read my handwriting. So I print out a piece of paper with where it's going. Here's the shipping address. Here's the return address. And I hand it to the cashier. They transfer that into the computer. They hit a button. It prints out a sticky label. They stick it on the box. They do it, not me. They take my box. They put it in the other box. They put the RAM pack in. They close and seal the box, stick the label on it, and they give me my receipt. So I'm paying extra for the box. I'm paying extra for the packing. And I'm getting 2-day express shipping, which I would not get from USPS. I will not get that from UPS, not anywhere near that price. And they've been 100% reliable, very minimal damage. It's very rare that anything arrives damaged. And unfortunately with USPS, it's pretty normal. Things arrive late, trying to get in the building before they close and the long lines. At least in my area of Phoenix, it's to be avoided. People are at the post office to buy stamps. They're there to buy cashier's checks or money orders. They're there for maybe passport. I mean, they're there for change of address. You're like, oh, how long is this line? I want to get something done and go. Let's go. And then when the person says, where's my package? They don't even give you accurate tracking info. They just basically say, well, here's the date it was shipped and here's the date it was delivered. But where is it today? I don't know. So FedEx gives you much more accurate tracking information to show the progress of the shipment. And so for all of those reasons, and ultimately because they're cheaper, faster, and more reliable, they're more convenient and have later hours, for me to complain about FedEx, there's nobody better. So unless I want to start my own shipping company or put it in the trunk and drive it there myself, it's definitely going to cost a lot more. I'll be grateful for FedEx and not complain about them. But I'm running a business, so what do I know? I only have to ship computers constantly, week after week, month after month. I don't know what your experience is, and I also don't know what it's like where you live. But here in Phoenix, it's preposterous and absurd to suggest FedEx is not good, because compared to the alternatives, they're amazing. So we will agree to disagree. All right, you can see we're up at the desktop, and it looks like we've got a video driver already installed because it looks like it's in 4K. Let me go full screen over here and see what our device manager looks like. Let's right-click on the Start button. And how many device drivers are missing? 4. So basically the AMD Adrenalin and chipset driver, and then probably this is Wi-Fi if I had to guess, because it did ask us to connect, so it must have had a driver to do that. And then whatever this unknown and this decryption controller is. So the first thing I want to do is see if I can change resolution to 1080. So display settings. Where is it? Right here. It's grayed out. So that means the driver's not, we're looking at a generic driver. So I can't change it until the driver gets put in. So let me grab my network cable. Now likely it's possible that everything we need will be provided from Windows Update. And apart from the AMD Adrenalin driver, which I would want the latest version of, we may not need any drivers from Getorli on this model. Or will we? Let's find out. You can see the bottom right, well, you can't see because the camera's in the way. On the bottom right corner, you'll see that little monitor right there that just a minute ago was a globe, right? If I unplug this cable, the Ethernet cable, it shows a globe. When I plug the cable in, if there wasn't a driver already installed, that would not change. But the fact that it's changed and it's synchronizing suggests that, in fact, the driver's loaded. And it shouldn't matter which one of the ports you use, they both use the same driver. So either way, you're good to go. With that, let's go to Windows Update and see, like I said, with this being a fully updated installer, there shouldn't be much waiting for us other than drivers and antivirus updates, obviously. So let's try it and see what happens. Start, Settings, and Windows Update. Also, going to Windows Update will cause it to activate the product key, and it won't tell us, it just does it automatically in the background. While we're waiting, I'm going to turn this feature on, and I'm going to go down to Advanced Options, turn on this one, turn on this one. These are my personal choices. Look, there's 4 missing updates, 3 of which are drivers. That could take care of 3 of those 4 right there. It could take care of all 4. Let's find out. Also, let me change my power settings. I don't want this thing going to sleep on me while we're live. We'll edit the power plan. Yeah, that would be bad for the screen to go off after 5 minutes. Change that to 3 hours. Change with the power buttons. I want the power button to shut this unit off. And there is no sleep button, so do nothing. There we go. And we did all that while it was downloading and installing all these updates. And even though our LAN controller already has a driver, it's still going to install this driver because it's apparently newer than the one we've got. It's an upgraded version, so just let it. Let me come back over to camera 1 back in the corner, and we'll keep an eye on that. We'll reboot and we'll check the device manager and see if anything's missing. I will still want to put the AMD Adrenalin, which also includes the latest AMD chipset, regardless if Windows gives it to it or not. Gives it to us or not. You know what I meant. Because we want to make sure we get it direct from AMD and we have the latest version. Sometimes the drivers we're getting automatically for Windows Update are older. And as you can see, sometimes the drivers, if they're included on the Windows installer, are older than what's on Windows Update. And sometimes what's on Windows Update is older than what's on the manufacturer's page. Depends how new the computer is. If the computer's already a couple years old, the manufacturer's page may be out of date. They may not update the drivers. They might just say, these are the stock drivers and we're not going to spend any money to constantly maintain those. That's on you. Once you take ownership of your machine, that's on you to update those, not on us. We provided you a working machine. That's where our support, stops. If you want that concierge type updating of drivers and such, you're probably going to have to go with a bigger brand name and spend more money. And that's par for the course. And it's not guaranteed either, because you could spend a lot more money and still not get updated drivers. It just depends on the individual decision making of the company, the people responsible for making the decisions. Dell and HP are usually good about updating, but even they sometimes will provide old drivers, and they'll tell you there's no reason to. From their perspective, their attitude is, yes, there is a newer driver, but it doesn't improve anything on our machine. That's why we don't provide it. 6 of one, half dozen of the other. If it's a psychological issue with you that you just have to have the new driver, go get it. But we're not going to pay money to provide it for psychological purposes if it doesn't actually give better customer service and reduce support calls. We're not going to spend money on it. If you want to spend money on something that makes you feel good, go for it. But we're not spending money on things that make you feel good. That's not their line of work, is to make you feel good. They need to sell you a reliable computer and make sure it has everything it needs. If that's not enough for you, they're not stopping you. But they're not going to spend money to accommodate you either. I always feel better psychologically when I sell a system to a customer that I have to support for the entire lifespan of that computer, not for a week and not for a year, until that customer decides they don't want it anymore. It could be 10 years from now. I want to make sure that that computer has the latest of everything, because I don't want that customer to call me. It's not because I don't want to talk to the customer. If the customer is calling me, it means that they think that I have sold them something that needs work. And that potentially shatters my confidence, or the customer's confidence in me as a tech, that they are inconvenienced by having to call me. I also don't like doing work for free. And in most cases, those are warranty calls that cost me money. Somebody's paying for my phone, somebody's paying for my time, and it ain't the customer. That was included in the purchase. If I did not include it in the purchase, they will probably never be a customer again. So if I want that customer to ever buy from me or refer me to somebody else, I better take care of them at my expense, and we'll chalk it up as the cost of advertising. You see, when you're at home and you're just buying stuff for yourself, none of this probably even enters your imagination of consideration because it doesn't apply to you. And that's why I feel it's so important for me to make these videos. Because if you base your decisions the same way I base mine, it should always work out for you, always in your favor. But if I based my decisions based on people at home base theirs, I'll probably be out of business. So it only works one way universally. The other way, it only works for a certain segment. So it's something for you to consider to determine if that's something you wish to adopt or just keep doing the way you're doing. But in the meantime, with the majority of content here on YouTube that's tech related coming from home users, it's not coming, not in abundance, from actual people in the industry. You're not getting all the information. They're omitting how the other half of this information exists and the policies and procedures that keep the world going around with employment and services and goods that you can buy, without which you wouldn't be on the computer you're on, there wouldn't be a YouTube, there wouldn't be a channel. I don't know how you think that electricity gets delivered to your house, but there's computers and IT staff and policies and procedures, reliability and replacements and spares and backups that affect whether or not people have a job and whether or not you get electricity or groceries at the grocery store. And all those policies and procedures those companies have to follow if they don't want to go out of business or have their customers take their business somewhere else. That's why it's good for all home users to adopt that same mentality, even if the only person they're answering to is themselves. It just leads to a lot more predictable end result and less panic and reactive nature of, oh no, something's going to happen at the worst possible time. It always does. And to have a plan for that, or to be able to know that that's less likely because you did all your research in the same way that a company would. You'd be less likely to even experience that to begin with. So just something for you to consider. And it was something I learned the hard way, because I thought businesses were making way too much out of this than they needed to. But after about a year or two in the industry, and I started seeing what the employees do and what the customers do, oh, it all makes sense. When you can't control what other employees do and you cannot control what your customers do, then you have to figure out a way that it's not going to cost you money every time your employee or your customer causes some disruption to your business, that it doesn't put your business out of business. You've got to protect the business. You've got to protect your customers from each other. Your customers can put you out of business, and all your other customers who might be running a business based on yours, then their businesses go out of business because you went out of business. They'll follow you right into it. So there's a huge responsibility there, not only for your own livelihood, but for the livelihood of others that depend on you. That includes your customers. And some of those customers may inadvertently cause harm, or they might do it with intention. One way or the other, you got to deal with it, because if you don't, you won't have a business. So stuff like that just isn't thought of by the home user. Just not even a concept to even consider. But I think it's worth considering, because if you adopt those processes, then you'll be as solid as a business when it comes to things going wrong, or the likelihood of it. So it looks like we got one other install happening. It looks like it's that big preview update that came out last night. And then we'll reboot and we'll check our device manager again. And then regardless of that, we'll do the Adrenaline software next, which should include the AMD chipset driver. And maybe we don't need anything from Getorli on this particular model. We'll find out here in a minute. Also, when we reboot, I will check our activation status, because it should have auto-activated us during this process as well. It just doesn't tell you. Boss says, one time I saw a delivery truck 100 feet from the house, and then it took off, and I got an email notifying that I wasn't home. that they tried to deliver it. Well, listen, every company, a large company that has thousands of employees, do you think it's fair to blame a delivery company? The entire, how many employees does FedEx have? Let me Google this. I'm going to make a point. I want you to think about what you're just saying. If you commit a crime, should we lock up your brother and your sister and your mother and your father and your uncles and your cousins? Should we say your whole family is sour because of you? Because that's what you're doing. You're saying this one bad employee is making 25,000 other employees incompetent. And I think that's preposterous to say something, if that's what you're implying. How many employees does FedEx have? FedEx has more than 500,000 employees. Approximately 375,000 are team members based in the United States. Okay. If 1%, if half of 1% of that 375,000 are lazy, maybe they're new hires and they haven't been caught yet, they generally won't stay with the company long if they don't get on board quick with the policies and procedures. So you got a bad driver. That's not the company's fault. That's the company. FedEx is not okay with that, by the way. They are absolutely not okay with that. So not only do you not like it, FedEx doesn't like it either. So this one employee is screwing you and the company that's hired them. If there's anybody to be angry at, it's the driver. So half of 1%, 0.5% of, well, let's just do it in my head. 1% of 375,000 is what, 37,000? And then half of that would be 16, 17, 18,000, say 18,000. So half of 1% would be, am I doing that math right? Let me double check my math. 0.5% of 375,000. 1,800. So 1,875 employees are potentially bad employees or new hires, or, they're not going to be an employee that's been there a long time, because you can't stay that long before that's all going to come back to you and you will be let go. So whatever driver did that to you probably isn't a driver anymore by now. Or they've straightened out and they're flying right now because they got corrected. And we're told if it happens again, you're going to be looking for another job. So I would not blame an entire company for the actions of one employee. I've gone to Burger King or McDonald's and got terrible service. That's not Burger King or McDonald's fault. It could be the franchise owner. Maybe that franchise owner, owns several stores in the area and they're all bad. If that's the case, then I don't go to those stores in my area. But if I see them outside of the area, it's like dealing with a whole nother company if it's a different franchise owner. It shouldn't be that way. And usually those franchise owners do lose those companies. If the franchise owner is just not spending money to keep the restaurant up to date or hiring good people, you'll stop eating there. And then the corporation wants to know why the store is performing poorly, because they still have to answer to the corporation even though they're a franchise owner. The franchise owner is going to be losing money until they eventually run out or correct what's wrong. So then it'll often be sold to another franchise owner before that happens, or they just close up and go out of business. So these are temporary problems. They're not sustainable. Companies cannot get away with that for very long because the bills keep coming in and they won't stop. But if your revenue gets slowed down or caught up in bad employees and bad service, bad food, they won't be able to pay the bills. So you got to fall back on a nest egg. Well, depending on the size of that nest egg, they may only have a month to correct it. They might have 6 months. They might have a year. One thing's for sure, if they don't correct it, they're going to be penniless the longer it takes. And when I say they, I'm referring to the franchise owners. The quote-unquote rich people will go broke if they don't cut off a limb to save the rest of the body, which usually means selling it off to another owner or just closing it down before they've bled out entirely of all their cash. Or fix the problem. Now, if it's a mom and pop shop, it's a family-run place, and the service is terrible and the food's terrible, they probably won't stay in business much longer either. And you can absolutely blame them but not a big corporation. I wouldn't. So we're doing our first reboot, and let me go back over to the chat. Boss says that one employee is representing the company. Yeah, that's why the company is not happy with it. He said, I'm just stating my experience with FedEx on a regular basis. I think you have a bias that it is not a regular basis, or that you think 2 packages in 3 years is regular. There's no possible way that every single time you get a FedEx delivery and you're getting 2-3 deliveries a week and they're always doing this to you, it's not possible. That's an exaggeration. It's hyperbole. You have decided in your mind that you don't like them, and now you're doing everything you can to justify that. Look, I don't care. Don't like them, but I'm telling you what you're saying doesn't fit any logical sense. There's no way a single employee is doing inaccurate deliveries on a regular basis. There's no possible way that that person is still working for them or is a delivery driver anymore. After a period of about 3 to 6 months, that'll be the worst of it. It will not be regular operational routine. There's no way. Because then other people would stop using FedEx in your area, and FedEx wouldn't have much to do with the deliveries there in your area. And if that's a franchised FedEx that's delivering to you, they won't operate anymore there because all the money will go away. It's just not possible. But you want to see it that way. That's the human mind doing what it does to convince people to, stay motivated to be angry. Because if you documented everything you're saying, if you said, okay, that happened on this day, and it happened on this day, and it happened on this day, and it happened on this day, I promise you FedEx already knows this, and they would have done something. You don't have to even report it. If a driver is constantly delivering late or constantly saying people aren't home when they are, how long do you think that driver's going to get away with that, even if nobody's complaining? FedEx is going to see that this driver's deliveries aren't the same as other drivers. Why does he get more people who aren't home than everybody else constantly? They know there's a problem, and they're motivated to keep the money coming in. So, but again, your reasoning is your reasoning, and I'm not here to tell you you're wrong, but you do seem to have some emotional connection to it. I'm just trying to run a business. Okay, with the desktop backup, let me go back to full screen over here and take a look at our device manager. Now, we, I think, have a video driver. Let's see if we can get it to 1920 by 1080, or is it shaded out? No, not shaded out anymore. So 1920 by 1080, we're going to keep those changes. And now we're going to right-click on the Start button, and we're going to go to the device manager right here. Okay, we have one unknown device. What is it? I don't know. It's unknown. Don't care. Not yet anyway. Let's download the AMD Adrenalin driver, because regardless we were going to do this, no matter how the device manager looked, we're still going to do this. So I'm going to come up here, type in AMD Adrenalin, enter. And then we'll click that link, click download. So, oh, I got to accept the cookies, or it won't let me move forward. Okay, now download software. And then we want the Windows drivers right here. And that should be the Adrenalin with the chipset drivers. We'll find out here in a second, because it'll tell us when it installs what it will be installing. So I'll click yes on that, close all these background windows so we can have no clutter and see what's going on. So here it's looking at our computer to determine which AMD products we have and whether or not this software works with those products. So here it says, yeah, we see you have an AMD graphics, which requires this driver. Different graphics would be a different driver, but still potentially supported through Adrenalin. Also, there's chipset drivers, and it wants to install both of these. If you want to help AMD improve the experience, it will anonymously send any issues to them. You can choose to enable that or not. Other than that, accept and install and let her rip, and then reboot and check the device manager and see if anything else is still missing. Now, if something else is missing, what we can do is go to Getorli's website, download that driver package, which we did over on the streaming computer, but we'll do it here on the Mini so we have the files locally. And then we can look at each one and try and figure out, I mean, we could do the whole batch, but then we won't know which one it is. And I want to know, if this doesn't solve it, then what the heck is it? And by doing one at a time, I'll be able to then definitively say, that is the one driver you need to get from Getorli, if in fact one driver is needed. And all the other ones can be ignored because we're getting them automatically. It would be nice to see the Mini manufacturers acknowledge this, but I've never seen a Mini manufacturer yet do this. To say, oh, by the way, if you do a fresh install of Windows 11 and go to Windows Update, then this is the only driver you need. Instead, they go, here's all the drivers, even though if it's Windows 11, which is what the drivers are for, they're redundant. I don't know why they do that, but just be aware of it. And let's go back over to the chat while we're waiting here. John Williams says, been a long week. I'm going to take a nap. Right on, John. I'll have a nice nap. All good. Thanks for hanging out with us. Roger Nyrid says hello. There's Brian Weber joining us. Welcome in, Brian. Andy mentions FedEx doesn't deliver to a P.O. box. That's true. That's true. Yeah, I've had to cancel some eBay listings because the people that bought wanted me to send to a P.O. box, and FedEx won't do it. There are situations where FedEx might make an exception, but it's not in their policy. So basically, if you want to roll the dice and hope the package doesn't get returned without a refund back to the sender, I just don't ship to P.O. boxes. I won't do it. Then you want to use USPS or UPS. But I'm dealing with secure deliveries, and P.O. boxes, it's too sketchy. And FedEx has a reason for that, and it involves customer satisfaction. If you forced FedEx to deliver to a P.O. box and you weren't getting your packages, FedEx would say this is why we don't deliver, and you'd still be mad. So if you're going to be mad either way, let's at least be mad at what they won't do. You have to think about the reasons why. Companies don't just wake up one day and go, well, it'll be fun to mess with our customers and restrict delivery. They're trying to guarantee customer satisfaction. And if you force the company to do something shady and it affects your customer satisfaction, you're going to blame them for listening to you. So they don't listen to you. They go, no, we're not doing it your way. We're doing it our way. If you don't like it, go somewhere else, because we don't want you to be upset with us. So instead, you're upset with them because they won't do it your way. Some companies, look, customers can be very difficult. They're very challenging to deal with the public. Some of the public are very reasonable, tolerant, and understanding and considerate, and others only care about themselves, and they don't care what your problems are. They go, that's a FedEx problem. That's not my problem. I'm your customer. Kiss my butt. And FedEx goes, we got lots of other butts here, so you can take yours somewhere else. People go, how dare you talk to me like that? And FedEx is like, bye. I hate FedEx. Well, FedEx isn't a fan of you either. So welcome to the world. Just like people, some people just don't get along with other people. May not be anybody to blame. They might just both be to blame. Maybe one person being unreasonable and demanding that has no authority. That's usually what it is. And when people get called out on being bullies, they don't like it and they retaliate. And, if you're going to open a business and deal with the public, you better get used to it. It is par for the course that they're going to think they're in charge of you. And you should be doing things the way they want you to do them. That is not the way any business works that I'm aware of, unless you have a butler or a maid. If you're wealthy and you can make those kind of demands, I'm jealous. I play by the same rules everybody else plays by. There's no exemption. I'm not better than everybody else, and nobody's changing the rules just for me. So either Play the game under the same rules or don't play. Start your own game. As a business owner, let me tell you, there's some customers out there. I hope none of you are that way. All right, let's go to our device manager. Now that it says the AMD software is installed, keep this software up to date. Yes, yes, yes. And go full screen. We should get the AMD Adrenalin software started up here automatically in just a second. I don't know why it's taking so long. Is it down? Oh, there it is. Finally came up. I'm going to skip this, and then this will give us the information about our current version of Adrenalin. Manage updates will show us our chipset driver version. That's down in here. Everything is installed. It looks good. Automatically keep AMD software up to date. Good. Okay, so let's close, and see if we still have that remaining unknown device or not. In the device manager, it's gone. So, okay, so what did we learn from this? We don't need any drivers from Getorli on this model. Different models, different drivers, but this model here, everything is provided either through AMD Adrenalin or Windows Update. No drivers are needed from Getorli. It's still good that they have them there, as they should, but you should not need them on Windows 11. As I've just demonstrated on this live video on a machine I've never seen before in my life, going into it blind, completely unprepared, with nothing more than a standard Windows 11 installer. Are we activated? Let's type in activation, settings. Yes, so it automatically applied the product key that's obviously embedded in the BIOS here and activated that product key. We're golden. So now what remains to be known is what's that NVMe drive in there and how fast is it and how well will it survive Cinebench? Let's run those tests real quick because we're just at 2 hours right now, but we're so close to the finish line. Let me grab my flash drive, my utilities flash drive. We'll plug that in and we'll copy over those standard utilities you always see me run. So we're going to come over to the folder. We want Uncle Carey's Windows 11 Optimizer on there. We sell that for 20 bucks on the website. Links in the video notes. We want to put VLC on this because that's what I do for all of my customers. We do not like the media player from Microsoft. To each their own. I'm just showing you what I do. You do whatever you want. I don't like people defending what they do. You do whatever you want. You don't need to defend it. I'm showing you what I do, and I don't want to defend what I do either. Okay? Let's do the hardware info, and let's do Crystal Disk info to get a little information on that NVMe, along with the benchmark of Crystal Disk Portable to see how well it performs. And then finally, we need Cinebench on here, which is a bigger directory. It'll just take a second to copy that over. And that should be everything we need off of the flash drive. Okay, so that's just about done. We can unplug the flash drive and put it away. We're done with it. And let's see, let's do Crystal Disk info first. What do we got? That will appear here in just a moment. So I don't know what GVY is, but apparently that's the manufacturer. It's brand new. It's only been powered on for 6 hours, although it's been turned on 188 times. That's pretty strange, don't you think? Why would a brand new drive be powered on 188 times? That doesn't sound new to me. It's pretty new, but brand new, we should be no more than 20 times. That's weird. It's suspect, but it's not harmful. You won't see that from Dell or HP or the bigger makers. When you pull up their Crystal Disk info, you'll likely see a name brand drive up here, not whatever this is. The drive itself is Gen 3x4, working in Gen 3x4, but it doesn't tell us what the motherboard supports. I'll assume it's probably Gen 3 by 4. I think on a 6800, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think the chipset on a 6800 supported Gen 4. But what we do know is the drive is a Gen 3 by 4 max, and it is communicating at that speed with the motherboard. So if the motherboard can do better, I don't know. With that, let's close and run the Crystal Disk Mark to see what our performance numbers are on this drive. At Gen 3, about 3600 is as fast as you can get on the fastest Gen 3. And on the more middling Gen 3 drives, you'd be looking around 2000. So which one is this drive? Right now with the SSD shortages and RAM shortages, I don't expect it to be a high-end Gen 3, but if it is, and it is, I'm okay with that. That's good. That's very good. So it's saturating Gen 3 by 4. You really can't go much faster than that. So I got nothing to complain about there. And even if it were half that speed, I'd say, well, you know, given the shortages, you're lucky to get a terabyte, let alone a fast terabyte at these prices. So that's a good thing. We've certainly seen our share of mini PCs that have SATA drives that are 3,000 megabytes slower. Seriously, they run at like 550 megabytes a second. And rarely does the manufacturer ever disclose that in the marketing catalog for the product. It just says, oh, it has a 512 NVMe, or it'll say it has a 512 gig SSD, or it might say M.2, but they suspiciously leave SATA or NVMe out of the listing. And that's why I do these reviews, so I can provide that omitted information. Whether it's done intentionally or unintentionally, I don't want to, you know, turn it into anything. Just want to raise awareness so you know what you're getting. So right out of the gate, I'm glad to see that we're on the, if it's going to be Gen 3, at least it's high end. While that runs, let me take a look in the chat room here. Andy says, I've got a Firebat A6 that uses a Ryzen 6800H. He says it does support Gen 4. Okay, well, I mean, I'd have to test it. If your 6800H supports Gen 4, so should this one. However, that would mean spending more money, right? The drive that it's coming with at this price, what we're demonstrating today, is Gen 3 by 4, and it's a high-end, well, at least on the reads, it's high-end. On the writes, it's kind of, it's at 2500 on the writes, which is, if you were on a true high-end Gen 3, it'll do the reads and writes over 3000. And then you have varying levels of performance on reads and writes depending on price in the range of Gen 3. Gen 3 can run anywhere from 1800 megabytes per second if it's Gen 3 by 2, upwards to 3600 megabytes a second by Gen 3 by 4, assuming you've got controllers and NAND chips that can hold up that speed. They're more expensive, so Gen 3 drives of similar capacity may be different prices depending on their read and write capabilities. Up to, but not to exceed the limit of 3600, because the technology can't do it any faster. Then you have to go to Gen 4. And Gen 4 has a range very similar, as does then Gen 5. And the price is according to what it's capable of. And I'm pretty impressed overall that this drive runs as fast as it does. I wasn't expecting it to be this good. The writes, they're decent. They're not great. It's about 1000 megabytes slower on a sequential write. However, that's not uncommon for your reads to be a third faster. That's, you know, when you're looking at budget drives on the higher end of the budget priced higher end drives, a third write speed, sorry, 1/3 slower than the read speed being the write speed is not uncommon. You got to go all the way to the tippy top of the mountain if you want both those numbers high, and that's going to cost you. Overall, this is fine. I don't see any issues with it. Let me go full screen again over on my side of things, and we'll grab that screenshot and we'll start up the temperature test, the CPU test. We'll grab some scores. I would have to put a Gen 4 drive into this to verify, you know, rather than assume. Whoops, that out of the file, save image. We'll call it Crystal. Gotta type one-handed with my left hand. No problem. JPEG. Yeah, actually, I don't need to put that in. I'll just change it here to JPEG, and we'll put it on the desktop. And in just a second, you should see that screenshot appear somewhere. There it goes, right there. Very good. Let's close that. Let's go to hardware info, and let's see what our temps are looking like on this battery. Sensors only. Start. Close. Let's move this over to the right. And let's bring up Cinebench. So right now, while Cinebench is loading, let me bring up our core temperatures, hit the little arrow, and we can see where our temps are sitting right now in the upper 30s and low 40 degrees Celsius, which is exactly where they should be. Accept the license agreement and start our multi-core test. And while that's running, overlay that screen. And let me scroll down a little bit more, just because there might be some information that you guys want to see. I'm not interested, but you guys might want to see some of this stuff down here. But where I'm focused is core 0 through core 7. These are the minimum these are the current temperatures right now. And you'll see this test is making that chip hot right away. I don't really hear the fans on this at all. It's very, very quiet. This is our minimum temperature since we started the software that it's recorded. This is the maximum temperature, and I'm keeping an eye on this row right here that holds our peak temperatures on each core. The minute it gets a new high score, it just holds the high score indefinitely until it's replaced with a different high score. So whatever our maximum high score is, that's as hot as it's going to get. And then this is an average, which doesn't really do me any good. So that's what I'm paying attention to, in case you're wondering. And then I probably have the camera in the way again. Oh, I've left the camera off. Hey, I'm getting smarter. Let me move the camera. We turn it back on and move it to the other side. I do hear the fan a little bit. And remember, there's two fans. There's the one on the bottom where the NVMe drive is. And then there's one on top that we can't see because it's on the other side of the circuit board. And the air, there's not much coming out of the side vents. All the hot air is being ejected out of the back. Pretty common. And it feels like a little hair dryer, very tiny hair dryer. I could feel a little bit of air. I don't know that it would move a piece of paper. That's explaining just, you know, how aggressive those fans are. The more aggressive they are, the louder they get. So if my hair is being blown back because of the exhaust air, it's probably going to be a loud fan. So that's a good sign. I can feel the air all the way with my hand going back about 8 inches from the back of the case. So when you do put this somewhere, you want it somewhere where it can breathe. It needs to be able to get air in off the sides. And then these gaps, I'm sure, bring in air as well. I'm sure they're not just there for looks. And if you enclose this like in a cabinet or something like that, it won't be able to breathe. It's just going to suck hot air in. The same hot air it's ejecting, it'd be like putting a bag over your head, and you're just going to breathe in carbon dioxide until you pass out. That's what happens to these two, except it involves heat, where they suffocate on themselves. So make sure you get good airflow on these. Just leave it open somewhere. You don't have to do anything special. Just keep it from being fully enclosed. I do hear the fans quite a bit now, but they're not loud at all. It's just before I couldn't hear the fan. Now I hear it, but it's very mild. All right, let me look in the chat here. Andy says we should see a score of around 13,000 in Cinebench. All right, thanks for the heads up, Andy. I never quite know what score to expect other than my main concern in running this test is that it passes without crashing and without overheating. And overheating in my mind would be anything over 95 degrees Celsius. Now, if it hits 95, we're okay. If it's maintaining 95, that's not good. It should only hit 95 maximum temporarily, momentarily. Because if it's running at 95 all the time, then that fan's going to be that loud all the time, and customer's not going to be happy. Not to mention it adds excessive wear and tear onto the circuitry, and components may then fail prematurely. No different than if you always put your foot to the floor in your car. You always run it at the high RPM limit, right up at the limiter. You're going to blow that engine much sooner than somebody who drives reasonably. Just guaranteed. So how you treat something is definitely going to affect how long it lasts, how reliable it is. And then on top of that, that won't prevent accidents. I mean, you can still spill something on it, or it could have a power spike that's out of your control that kills the unit. But those things are far less likely than just abuse from the end user. And if abuser wants to abuse it, it's theirs to abuse, but I don't want them crying to me that they're a victim, because then they're just a victim of making bad decisions, right? I can't help them. They need to see a psychologist. I can't help them. So this warm-up that it's doing right now prior to running the benchmark is intended to get the machine hot, and then it runs the benchmark. So this isn't to replicate consumer work. This is to put the computer under an extreme endurance test to verify that it can survive. That means that if it can survive this, anything an actual customer does to it shouldn't even compare to what this is doing. This is so extreme and extraordinarily unrealistic that if it can do this, it can do whatever the customer wants. Now, there's always going to be that one customer, you know. But for that one customer, we'll talk about the fact that they should have bought something higher end. If you have to constantly push this thing to where it's baking itself, then you underbought. You made a bad purchasing decision that's not right for you. That's not the fault of the machine. That's the fault of the end user making a poor choice. But oftentimes, the end user doesn't have that knowledge, and they just think they bought a bad computer. No, you bought exactly the same as everybody else bought that computer at, but you're asking it to do more than everybody else is asking. You're the problem. Once we fix you, we fix the computer problem. Again, that's more of a psychological issue or a tutoring issue. It is not a technical issue. That's a human being issue. The good news is most customers are not that way. The bad news is there's always those customers out there, and they will look to point the finger at somebody other than themselves and be insulted when you suggest that they've made a bad purchasing decision. And that's why, as a business owner, you're much better off saying, let me give you your money back, please go buy somewhere else. I don't want to deal with you anymore. You're not paying me enough money to babysit you and tutor you. Please take your business somewhere else. Instead, what they'll try and do is threaten to take their business somewhere else. And it never even occurs to them that's what the business owner wants them to do. They think, I'm going to punish you because I don't like the way that this is working, and I don't like the way you're talking to me, so I'm going to give my money to somebody else. What that never occurs to them is the business owner is basically saying, yes, please do that right now. Don't hesitate. Let's get you your refund and get you out of here, because we don't want your business. If our customers acted the way that that customer is acting, we would shut the business down. And these customers, they exist, and they don't seem to understand that their business is not that important. Unless they're buying hundreds of computers and spending tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, you're just another face in the crowd. You're not special. You're not doing anybody any favors. If you feel like they've got a good deal, that's why you're buying it, for you. You're not buying it to help them. That's preposterous. But that's the way some customers think. And when you're in business, you deal with the public, oh man. Whether they're trying to scam you or they're just entitled, I don't know. Maybe they weren't raised well. I don't know. but they're your problem now. Congratulations. The question is it worth solving that problem, or just send it off to somebody else? Go away. Take you and your problem and go away. And most businesses, when it comes to individual consumers, just want you to go away. Because there's 1,000 customers behind you waiting for their turn in line that won't create all the problems you're causing. So there's no incentive for them to put up with you, because it's not normal. They don't put up with it with anybody else. So somebody has to be a very big spender to tolerate that kind of disrespect and insolence. And I tell you this as a favor, both if you're thinking of starting a business, be ready for this. And if you're a customer of any business, think about the business dealing with you. Is what you're doing fair to them? We could all help each other out here, and the world would get along a lot easier if we didn't try to exercise authority and importance where we have none. And that'll make 90% of the problems go away. It's like, okay, we understand we need each other. I don't need you more than you need me. And you don't need me, you know, the other way around. It's the idea behind that transaction is that I'm going to sell you something that you feel is a good deal and that I can make money on. It's not, let me find a way for you to screw me over, because you certainly wouldn't sign up for that. Why would they? If it's not mutually beneficial for both parties involved, then don't do business. Take your business somewhere else. You're already doing it anyway. When you see somebody you feel is overcharging for a product, you don't go there and try and talk them down, right? You just don't go there. That's your way of punishing them. And they're okay with it. Likewise, they're not knocking on your door, twisting your arm, convincing you should overpay for a product. They put their ads up. Everybody sees the same ad. You react to it violently. Everybody else scrolls past. Some people purchase. If the business is doing well or the business is suffering, who cares? It's not your business. All right, let's go to the second test. And let me take a look one more time, full screen, so I can read these numbers. Maximum temp achieved was only 83.8. That's really low end. I wonder if we could get a little more performance out of this by cranking that up a little bit. We'd have to look in the BIOS and see if there's any performance options in there. But overall, I got no complaints. Our score is at 12,581, a little shy of that 13,000. But we've got room here to add a little more speed if we wanted to. Let's do the single core test now. That'll run another 10 minutes. And while that runs, we'll overlay that window again and keep an eye on it. Yeah, the business side of things, they don't really teach this in school. Especially when I started my business. There were no computer repair businesses that I could copy from. It just wasn't a thing that existed. So I had to make everything up as I go. And on top of that, customers will come up with some bizarre nonsense, and without any proper training or experience in that, it's sort of like, okay, I never planned for this, never thought of this before, now what do I do? When I share these stories with you, it's not to complain about customers, it's to make you aware that, number one, be self-aware if you're being that customer, because it could be you're getting treated exactly the same way anybody else would treat you, and you're just not aware of it. Number two, if you're thinking of starting a business, let me tell you information that nobody gave me. So you will be prepared for it when I wasn't. This idea that every customer is valuable is nonsense. Some customers are more valuable than others. There are customers and there are good customers. You never want to lose a good customer. If you see a customer once, they give you their money, they're not a problem, but they never come back again, you never miss them, you don't know who they are, you'll never see them again, who cares? If the customer is trying to take advantage or scam you, or they're difficult to work with, then you remember them and you never want to see them again. And if it's a good customer, you'll bend over backwards to accommodate them because they're reasonable, they offer you value, you enjoy their company, they're nice people that you like working with and you want them to come back. You see what I'm getting? You're going to get what you give in this world. If you give nastiness, you're going to get nastiness. If you want to get in and out, and you don't really want to form any relationship or get to know anybody, then get in and out and go. What's remaining are your good customers. And those good customers, they're a pleasure to work with. They're rarely a problem. And if they are a problem, then it's like worth it because they're such a good customer. You'll do something for them you won't do for others. And if you say, well, that's not fair, it's completely fair. 100%. You get what you give. Also, if you're not getting what you give, you should take your business somewhere else, because it works the other way too. Barry Klein joins us and says hello. Welcome into Barry. And what was I going to do after this? Oh, I'll look in the BIOS after this. As for whether or not this is Gen 4, I'm going to have to open it up and put a Gen 4 drive in it, I guess. I don't know what else I can do. And I'd have to test each slot to see if they're both Gen 4. But at least, you know, that's my job, right? To verify this information is accurate. And I probably won't do it during the live stream. I can do that afterwards and maybe write up a little Amazon review or something with all those details and screenshots for other potential buyers. I don't get paid to do that. I'm just looking out for... Listen, this is how insane this is. I'm going to do all this work for free to benefit people I will never meet, who will use that information to make Getorli more money. And I won't see a penny because I think it's the right thing to do for society. And I'll take it very seriously. I'm not going to cut any corners or say, well, I don't owe anybody any explanations. If they're not buying from me, they're going to buy from Amazon. They're going to buy from a company I have nothing to do with. What do I care if I leave a review? What's in it for me? There's nothing in it for me. If it helps Getorli, great. If it helps rando people all over the internet that I've never met, that'll never say thank you, but they will use it to make their purchasing decision with confidence, I'll never know. So why do I care how detailed my review is? There's no way to hold me accountable. I could completely lie. I could say this is the best computer I've ever used. There's no better deal on the face of the planet. Everything is beautiful. It's Gen 5 and has 100 million megs of RAM in it. There's nothing illegal about that. Why would I do that? It would be no benefit to me. But it's also no benefit to me to write an accurate review with all the detailed information. I don't get paid. But I do believe it's the right thing to do for society, to share the knowledge that we have with others. I think it's the right thing to do for Getorli, since they sent us this unit, to provide information and to make them aware that I am providing this information because they did not. And if they choose to correct that, they may choose to, and if they choose to leave it alone, then my review still gets published for other potential buyers to understand exactly these little nuances of detail that perhaps are included. Things like the drivers that aren't needed. It'd be nice for Getorli to mention that. Maybe they'd never tested it. I don't know. No, it's the right thing to do. Barry Klein is talking to somebody else in the chat, said, I've always said that everyone coming out of school should run their own business for 2 years prior to working for someone else. It'd make them better employees. I guess I think you should work for somebody else first. I take the opposite. And the reason I say that isn't to just, you know, be devil's advocate here, but that's what I did. I worked in corporate America and I worked at Best Buy. And when I worked at Best Buy, oh boy. Okay, so corporate America, you're dealing with all the employees of the corporation. That's a lot of people at Intel and the power company and the government. But it's a fraction of the public. So whatever taste they've got is some crazy people in the workplace, dealing with the public is a whole nother level. So after leaving corporate America, and getting into, I guess Best Buy is still corporate America, but it's public facing. So I'm mostly dealing with people from the public more so than dealing with coworkers at Best Buy. Boy, oh boy, the level of experience that I got in just a year and a half or 2 years at Best Buy was probably equal to about 6 years of experience in corporate America because of how crazy it was with different personalities and different, you know, there was no policies or procedures to what an end user wants or will buy or wants fixed. It's everything you could imagine and more so. So to have that massive amount of variety hit you from all those different personalities, demands, and equipment is like years of corporate experience where everything is, it's always going to be these same models of computers, and these are always the same processes, and the employees have to follow the same rules. And if an employee is being difficult, you go to HR. When a customer is being difficult at Best Buy, find somebody else to help them, I guess, let them talk to a manager, walk away. Then with that experience, I started my own company. I actually started my company while I was working at Best Buy because I didn't have enough business to go full time with my own company. So I was doing it after hours on my days off and on weekends, let's say. I don't know if it was weekends. Whatever the weekend equivalent was to my work schedule at Best Buy. I got a couple days off a week. And I would spend those days with my business. And then eventually my business was bringing in a decent amount of money, but not enough to live off of. But for me to make enough money to live off of, I needed more time. And I had to give up either Best Buy or the business if I wanted either one of those to grow. And I decided I'll take a risk on myself, quit Best Buy, focused full-time on my business, very worried about how I was going to pay the bills at the end of the month, and it all worked out. Phew! I mean, I didn't get rich, but that was 35 years ago, and no. 35 years ago is when I started working professionally in the industry. I started my own business about 4 or 5 years later, so let's say 95, 96. So that means my business has been around for 30 years. Maybe 29 years, I'm not exactly sure. Somewhere between 95 and 97, I went full-time on my job, and I just can't remember. I didn't think to write it down. Dear Diary, I don't even know when I quit Best Buy. I'm sure there's got to be a record of it somewhere, but that would be the indication of when I took a leap off the cliff and just said, here we go. I mean, I won't be flat broke, but I won't be able to pay the bills. Let's try it. And if you don't have that personality type, you will never be in business for yourself. There's got to be some risk-taking involved and some ability to say, I might not sleep for the next 3 or 4 days if that's what it takes. I won't be able to clock out until I make this money and pay the bills. So I'm willing to put in 80 hours a week if I have to for myself rather than 40 hours a weekend for Best Buy. That benefits them. That doesn't benefit me. And that was the attitude I had, and that's how we're here today. Now, at the same time, I haven't franchised out and have a bunch of little shops, and you know, because I like doing the work. I don't want to manage people. I want to do the work. Mark Leibowitz said, yeah, he's with me. Before you start your own business, work for a company in your chosen industry. Learn from them. The experience might be painful, but you'll learn a lot that'll help your own business succeed. And Barry says, I found that most employees have no idea what you're dealing with, and as a business owner, many think you're making money hand over fist without knowing the back end. Yeah, that's true too. Mark says, I worked as a consultant for years for other consulting firms, and I learned all the possible things that really tick clients off. To the extent possible, I avoid doing those things in my own business. So he's getting on-the-job training at the company's expense, where he's screwing up or learning lessons that he can then apply those lessons to his own business so that his business won't suffer the way his employer suffered. This is true. This is what on-the-job training is, right? You're taking, the company's going to pay you less because you don't come with experience, but every time you make a mistake, it's going to cost that company to fix that mistake you made. And then you learn from those mistakes and think, I don't need this company. I could do this on my own. and the chance of you succeeding will be better. If you start your own business right out of college without any experience, your business is likely going to fail, leading to a job in corporate America. But if you start in corporate America and then decide to start your business is more likely to succeed. So I think the statement you're making, Barry, is you're implying that your business will fail. That's why you should have your own failed business first before you work for anybody else. Well, if your business was successful right out of college, you would never work for anybody else. So you see what I'm getting at there? Anyway, to each their own. You know, you do what you feel is right for you. That's how I did it. Where are we at on this? Oh, it's running the, I see, the clock's at 0. So that means the warm-up clock is expired and now the benchmark is running. Okay, we're almost done. And our temperatures so far have reached, whoops. A little bit hotter. We're at 84.3 max, well, 83.8 here. Yeah, I mean, there's still more headroom to get a little bit more out of this thing. But if you leave it alone, it's probably going to result in more longevity and quieter fans. And I'm sure that's why the engineers spec'd it out the way they did with regards to any fan curves or thermal junctions. For an end user to second guess a highly educated team of engineers, I think is profoundly absurd, but it's your equipment. If that's what you want to do to it, have fun. I don't condone it. I don't do that for customers. I won't go in there and crank up performance modes for customers because I don't want the support calls. Customer wants to do that, they can do it on their own, and then when they want to call me, I'll charge them to fix it. I'm not doing that under my managed services clients. That is not included, and I'm not doing that for free, and I'm not going to tolerate their being upset over fan noises or heat because they told me to do something that I advised them against. So I don't do it. If they don't like it, they can hire somebody else. I would rather have no customer than have an unhappy customer. So if that customer's happy going to somebody else, then we're both happy. Can you imagine telling your dentist or your doctor how to do their job and that you could do it better than them when you don't have the degree and you don't have the experience? You know how absurd that is? But people do it all the time. And, you know, again, it just comes along with running a business. If I'm just sitting at home using my own computer, doing whatever the hell I want, nobody knows about the bad decisions I make except me. And I can tell myself anything I want. Stupid Microsoft. I can be as delusional and absurd as I want to be because it's not impacting anybody else. It's your own little private bubble. You talk to yourself, tell yourself jokes, laugh at your own jokes, have fun. It's very different from being on stage telling jokes to a crowd of people that aren't laughing. And then tell all those people they're all wrong and your jokes are funny. Evidence suggests otherwise. Anyway, it's just fascinating to me to be able to see both sides of it, right? I see it routinely every day. I see the customer, the disconnect the customers have with the back end of the business and dismissing and disrespecting the level of knowledge and experience the experts in the fields. Not just me, just experts in the field will be questioned because, you know, I read an article on YouTube, on the internet, or I watched a video, and therefore I am now equal to you in your experience and education. Oh, is that how YouTube works? Okay. But the good news is there's plenty of reasonable people out there as well, but it's just not everyone. And reasonable people, you know, thankfully make up the bulk of it. And if they didn't, I wouldn't be doing this business anymore, because then you just become a psychologist or a tutor, and that's not what I signed up to be. Both of those jobs pay a lot better than this one. And he said, well, performance mode is also well thought out. It makes no difference except under heavy workloads. That's true. Just because you put it in performance mode does not mean it's going to run in, you know, the high end. But if you are pushing the machine hard enough that you think you need to turn performance mode on, then you're likely running it all the time. If you're using performance mode infrequently, and that's why you want to turn performance mode on, then it's not really making much difference other than psychological. So for the 3 minutes you run this piece of software, or even 30 minutes, you're going to get a little tiny boost of maybe 8% more power. That's all psychological. It doesn't benefit you in any real sense of the word. But if you're running it in performance mode because you need performance mode all the time, that tells me you underbought a computer that doesn't meet your needs, and you're pushing it harder on a regular basis. Otherwise, you wouldn't need performance mode on at all. It wouldn't make that big of a difference to run it infrequently in performance mode, or to just not have it in performance mode at all. And we don't know yet if this even has a performance mode. We got to go in the BIOS and look. So just something to consider. There's this weird logic of, you know, wanting to have more of something you don't use. Give me more RAM. Why? I don't have enough. Why? Because there's room for more. Yeah, but how much are you using? What difference does it make? Well, if you're not using what you have, having more of it doesn't make any sense to spend the money and the time, only to invite problems as a consequence, to doing work that didn't need to be done, spending money that didn't need to be spent for things that you're not even utilizing. Let's turn on performance mode. Why? So it'll go faster. All the time? No, just sometimes. Well, if it's just sometimes, it's not going to make a big difference either way. So why bother? Okay, well, it's all the time. Well, then you underbought. Okay, well, you know, it's this mentality of trying to fix problems that don't exist that creates problems. And I'm trying to tell people this is an issue with the end user. You've got to stop thinking this way, because all you're doing is it's either costing you more money, costing you more time, costing you more anxiety, and resulting in zero actual productivity results, or so negligible differences it's not worth even the time you thought about it. That's how I run my managed service business, right? People are going to run things that make sense. If they want to do it in a way that doesn't make sense, you pay me extra or you find somebody else. That's it. Because otherwise, I'll only have one customer. I won't have time for anybody else if that's what they want to do. And that one customer better pay me enough to pay those bills at the end of the month, or I won't have a business. So I don't have much choice. I'm stuck. There's so many hours in a day, and there's so much due at the end of every month. I got to pay all these bills. So if one customer wants to monopolize me, then they better be paying me enough to cover all those bills. They want to be cheap, and they want to dictate all this other information and waste money on stuff they don't need and then call me with the problems. That's not working for me. They can go do that without me. So losing my business is not a fun thing to think about, and letting a customer run me out of business by questioning my abilities or forcing me to do things they want me to do things, it affects my livelihood and whether or not I'm going to be able to pay my bills. It's not an attitude or an ego. It's like somebody telling me to jump off a bridge that I'm most likely going to perish. I'm not doing it. I don't care how much they want me to do it. They can do it. I'm not going to do it. How is that any different? Looks like we got our numbers here. So let me go back to full screen over here on my side and see what our numbers look like. Numbers are great. The fan, I didn't even notice when the fan quieted down. That's how minor, when the fan is cranked up, that's how minor the sound is. I didn't even notice when the noise went away. It's very mild. Let's grab a screenshot of these results. 1517 on the single core, 12581 on the multi-core test. And let's do print screen, which will make this keyboard here. Function, print screen, and then go to Microsoft Paint. Got confused which mouse I was looking at. Paint, and then edit and paste. Perfect. We'll save these results on the desktop. JPEG on the desktop. And we'll call it Cinebench R23 results. Then I should be able to close everything out now. And there's our screenshot right there of the results. Beautiful. All right. Does this have performance mode? Let's go take a look in the BIOS and see. Some do, some don't. I'm going to try and hit the key at the right time here. So in just a second, start. Oh, see, I waited too long. That's why I like going into the settings and doing it that way, because there was a delay. I'm using a television as a monitor, and it doesn't react as quickly to the boot up screen. There's like a delay, and that little delay is what caused me to miss my opportunity to hit the delete key at the right time. Or was it delete? Did it say it was delete or F2? I'm hitting the wrong key. I needed to press F2. Right? Isn't that what the bottom of this unit says? F2? Let me get my other glasses and read it real quick. We'll try one more time. Yeah, press F2 to enter BIOS. All right, let's try one more time. Only this time, let's press the right key. And let's do it at the right time. So to do this, what I'll do for the timing is once the word restarting goes away, that's when I'll start pressing F2 instead of waiting. So right now, F2, 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 just once or twice a second. And we should, yeah, there it is. So we caught it in that little window of opportunity. Date and time are correct. We've got a BIOS version, but there is no BIOS download available for this regardless. There's our RAM. Under advanced, we've got Wake on LAN, USB boot enabled, CEC support, wake timers, TPM, entrusted computing, ACPI settings with hibernation, etc. CPU configuration doesn't seem to have any performance options there. And NVMe configuration just tells us about the drive that's detected, which again is the model and size, nothing to do with the performance or capabilities. Then we've got security and boot, save and exit. So there does not appear to be any performance options. By performance options, I'm referring to the amount of power. Sometimes you can crank up the power, that cranks up the heat, that cranks up the performance, and it cranks up your fans. Some machines have that. They'll have like a quiet mode, a balanced mode, and a performance, and I don't see that in any. It's not an awake setting, it's not trusted, it's not TPM, it's not ACPI, that's all suspension stuff. And then you've got your CPU config with hyper-threading and core performance boost, which you could say is performance options, but that's not what I mean. I'm looking for configurable power configuration, and it does not seem to offer it. It's all locked in. And that probably results in much better, reliable mini PCs with less support calls and happier customers to keep your customers out of there from causing harm to themselves. Unfortunately, because so many customers do voluntarily cause harm to themselves that cost the company money, the rest of the customers that know what they're doing are punished. And so if that's not acceptable to you, then stay away from those brands. And that includes Dell and HP as well. They don't want the customers messing around with it. I guess I can run my optimization tool. Andy says, yeah, that mini is running nice and cool. Agreed. But it did give a slightly lower performance number than you were expecting, and that's probably why it's not. It's capable of doing more, but we can't change it. It's locked in. And that's fine, because like I said, the difference is about 8%. So it's negligible. Anybody else that wants to pay the extra money for the 8%, then they can demand it. But at these prices, I'd say you'd be hard-pressed to find anything to complain about here. It's a really good deal. And the machine seems, you know, very well equipped. It doesn't have Oculink or USB 4, but it also doesn't sell for those prices either, right? With that 32 gigs of RAM, and I have to keep emphasizing, that 32 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage have doubled the price of this computer. And it will be the same for any computer that you do that to. So this is my optimization tool just finalizing, like it's taking out the remote desktop. That's usually what this part, that takes a while. It uninstalls remote desktop from the Pro version of Windows because it's a security concern. Microsoft addressed it most recent in an update Tuesday, I want to say the second Tuesday of April. They finally addressed it after all these years. And people don't like it. People don't like locks. What a pain in the butt to have to keep your keys and know where your keys are. But we live in a society that if you don't use the lock, someone's going to steal everything you own. And then when they learn how to pick your locks, we have to upgrade the locks and we have to change the locks. And then people complain because it's different than the other lock. Well, if we didn't live in a planet where people just screwed each other over, complete strangers with no agenda or vendetta, just to take advantage of a complete stranger because it was easy because you refused to use locks, your choice is you either get on board with the lock and learn how to use it, or be willing to give up everything you own and let somebody steal it from you. Those are your only two choices. So Microsoft put some locks, additional locks on the remote desktop. And some people say, wow, that sucks because now I got to answer another question or I got to do another confirmation. That's not because of Microsoft. That's because of your fellow human on this planet trying to screw you over. Somebody you've never met, just trying to screw you over. You can unplug from the internet. You won't have to deal with it ever again. Everything looks good here. You can see the optimizer says we're activated, TPM is installed, Secure Boot is on, BitLocker is off, System Restore is on. We could do the driver backup, but we don't need it on this. Like I said, everything came automatically in Windows 11 and Windows Update. And then, of course, the AMD Adrenalin driver, which we would have installed regardless, just to get the latest version for performance, reliability, and security reasons. It's free and it was simple to do. So that's a very good thing about this computer, which again, on the plus side, manufacturers don't tell you this. This could be a buying decision, the fact that you can do that with this computer, that you're not dependent on any drivers from the manufacturer. That could be the difference that, you know, comparing similar models from other manufacturers, those other manufacturers may have proprietary drivers or drivers less common that leave you tied to them for those. Now, this only applies to Windows 11. Who knows what any future operating system would do, but in theory, those drivers would be old, and if they weren't included before, probably will be, unless they're just not compatible with some future version of Windows that may come out someday before we die. Or maybe it won't. So for what we have today and what we know today, no other drivers are needed from the manufacturer. And I don't think it would hurt the manufacturer to promote that, you know, on their catalog page to say, oh, by the way, if you want to install your own Windows, you can download drivers from us if you want to, but you don't need to on Windows 11. Here's what you do. Who else can say that? Most mini PC manufacturers will have some kind of a driver that you're going to have a hard time finding. We've demonstrated that time and time again here. When we get one that all the drivers just happen automatically, that's pretty rare. And that may make the mini PC worth more to some buyers. Let's see, so I got VLC installed. We can go back to Windows Update, but I'm pretty sure we're all current. We'll hit retry on these. These were probably duplicates. So there's a good chance they won't retry again because the duplicate will fail, but the original that was happening in the background would have succeeded. You only need the driver once. You don't need to put it in twice. So just because it failed and it says retry doesn't mean anything is wrong. That's perfectly normal under that circumstance. How do we know if that's the circumstance? If it tries to install it again. If it never tries to install it again, that means it already installed it. And that was it. These are all duplicates. That's why they failed. So we'll see what the results are here, and that'll let us know for sure. And we're just about out of time. It's almost 4 o'clock here in Phoenix. Yeah, we got just an antivirus update. Those happen multiple times throughout the day, so that's normal. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, this is the time to ask in the chat room, and I'll do my best to provide an answer to you. Other than that, if you want to reach out to us via email, our email address is right here on the screen. Feel free to reach out anytime. We love hearing from you guys. If you have questions, if you see something on the channel and you want to purchase it, we love to sell it so we can use that money to self-finance more purchases for more reviews, because we're not corporate sponsored here. If you need help with something, or if there's a question, we may end up directing you to the manufacturer if you have a very specific technical question. We don't work for these manufacturers. We might know the answer, or our answer might be talk to their sales department. But there's no harm in asking us, and we will sincerely do our best to provide the answer, even if the answer means telling you where to ask that question. Sometimes we've had people ask some pretty bizarre, well, to me, technical questions that I never even thought of and have no idea how to answer. And that's when I have to remind those people I don't work for these companies, so I'm not privy to that information, but I will point you to their email address or their website in that case. So, you know, it's usually the sales department. And then if you're still hung up after that, if, you know, you're not getting any response, we want to know that too, because that applies to, is that a good manufacturer to recommend if they're not answering emails? And we wouldn't know if you don't share that with us. Thank you to Mara for all the work she does in the background with our, she's arranged for this machine to be here today. That's all her doing. And thanks to Getorli for sending it to us and for taking our criticisms or concerns seriously, that they now have a website and drivers. I'm going to change this wallpaper back to the Windows default. It's much less noisy. Perfect. Thank you to Buster. Thank you, Mark Gaines. Thanks to Luke Greeny, of course, and Frankie B for his continued support and generosity. Just looking at my phone to see if I'm forgetting anybody. I think I got everybody in there. Thanks to everybody in green for supporting us. I hope you're having a great Friday. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. We have coming up, let me go back to camera one for this. Coming up on Sunday's show, we have 5 more mini PCs, and 2 mini PCs showed up today from France. I've never gotten a computer from France before. France is known for being very creative when it comes to fashion and food. They think outside of the box in that way. And the mini PC doesn't look like any other mini PC I've ever seen, which looks like a box. They thought inside the box on this one. The company's called Cub. I think it's KU or CUBB? KUBB. And they sent us 2 units to review. And they just arrived today before the show. They don't look like anything I've ever seen. They're these cubes. Very interesting. They look like the B-Link mini NAS, but these aren't NASs. One of them is completely fanless, so it runs perfectly silent, but it doesn't have the industrial look that all the other fanless units we've seen have. And the other is like an Ultra 5. It's larger, but still a cube. So it's really kind of a piece of art in a sense. It doesn't look like a computer. There's nothing discernibly computery about it. It just looks like some abstract art form. We'll see how they work. I don't know what their pricing is. I don't know much about them other than that's different, and that's what drew me to them. I had Mara reach out, and again, because of Mara's work, put forth the effort to make those arrangements, and they sent it to us free of charge in exchange for a review. Yep, they sent the fanless and the Ultra 5. And then on top of that, we've got...
What is called essential, spelled in the French way, called the mini.
We will get to them. So that means we have a total of 7 mini PCs waiting in the wings for review, which is fantastic because, as you know, the industry is in a stall universally with Wi-Fi, storage, CPUs, motherboards. cases, anything dealing with computers right now is not moving at the pace it once was moving at. We were having such a hard time to keep up. I was always under pressure, behind schedule for years. Now I'm way ahead going, where is everybody? And they've all gone simultaneously. Once in a while, one pulls up and we'll grab it and we'll review it. And then we're like, when's the next one? We don't know. So to have this little buffer of 7 mini PCs covers us because they're not a priority. If something else were to come in, like a repair or an upgrade, we can set those aside, do the priority upgrade or diagnostic. If those become available, if they don't, then we've got the mini PCs. And hopefully we're buying enough time that the industry corrects before too long and we're back to trying to keep up again. I hope. I have no control over it. I'm just trying to keep the channel moving and doing what we have to, including using our own money to buy products just to keep everything moving at least at the same pace we were at before, without as much hectic pressure. I'm definitely not under the amount of pressure I used to be. So I'm, on the one hand, feeling a little lazy, but I feel like it's a higher power telling me to slow down because I won't allow myself to slow down. It's forcing me to do it whether I like it or not. The anxiety I have is, what if it never picks back up again? We'll see. But I got to remain hopeful that it will come back. And the economy's bad. You know, everything's expensive. Food and gas, everything right now in the US. It's very, very expensive. People aren't buying because they don't have as much expendable cash, if any at all. And so every place is slow. Except In-N-Out Burger. We went to In-N-Out Burger last night. You'd have thought they were giving away free food. It was after 7 o'clock at night, and the line for the drive-thru ran through the parking lot all the way out to the entrance. And I was like, what is going on? So we parked the car, we went inside, we walked right up to the counter. Like, all these people are too lazy to get out of their cars, so they'd rather sit in the car for a half an hour. I'm pretty sure we ordered, ate, and left, and probably the car that was last in line was probably at the window by the time we were already fed and were leaving. But other restaurants, they've been empty. We go in them and there's just nobody in there. And several have closed up. There's been a Carl's Jr. that's closed up down the street. Denny's, there's 2 Denny's down the street, both closed. And they were always empty. I even said tomorrow, I'm like, how can they stay in business? This is way too slow. Not surprisingly, all the signs are down and there's a fence around it. It's gone. So some of the places cannot weather this storm and wait for things to get better. And we're doing what we can to weather it. Because if we go away and then come back later, there's a good chance many of you will never know we came back. So we have to keep making content in order to keep our momentum with our viewers and our community. And it's costing us, well, thankfully we've got the members and that's the money we're using. But what we'll end up doing with these units we're buying is we'll end up, after we review them, we'll sell them. And we'll take whatever losses we get on those and apply that to making more purchases. And we're going to keep doing it until we either run out of money or the industry self-corrects. We'll see which one happens first. And in which case, this channel may be all about frozen pizza reviews. We'll see. You got to do something, you know, but not yet. We're still holding out hope that this is just temporary and things will come back. So it's not just you, the whole industry is slowed down. Every tech channel is slowed down. Every single one of us. We're all impacted by it equally. And we just don't know if it's permanent or just a temporary pain point. We'll figure it out together. In the meantime, that'll wrap it up for me for today. I just want to take one last look here in the chat to see if I missed any questions. And thanks to our members again, because without the members, we just aren't doing this anymore. It was great when all the ads paid for everything and you could just put your ad blocker on and skip the ad and screw the ad companies and screw the creators. That didn't pan out very well in the long run, did it? So here we are. Not you, but you know, the people that did that. Could be you. Maybe not, but enough people were doing it that the ads just kind of, they don't have any value anymore. What's Frankie say? Frankie says something about PC Manager. I don't, all I see is Frankie saying something MSPC. So we didn't put it on here yet. I don't know if you're referring to your own machine. I don't have any context on that, Frankie, but you can send us an email, of course. Andy says he's enjoying the slowdown. Yeah, I don't mind it. If I knew it had a recovery date, I'd say great, I can plan accordingly. But there may never be a recovery. This may be it. It may just be the beginning of the end. But I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be, the end is nigh. I think it's temporary, but I don't have any control over it. And I want to hope for the best. I wouldn't want somebody in a cancer research center, right? And you say to that person, do you think you're going to find a cure? And that person says, no, we're never going to find a cure. Well, then what are you doing working here? Get out. We don't want to hire people like that. We need to hire people that believe they're going to find a cure. So you're taking up a spot here. They're wasting everybody's time and money. Get the hell out. Like, it's offensive that you don't have hope in that line of work. And in much the same way, I would find it offensive being in this line of work saying, oh, it's probably all ending. No, I don't believe it is. I have the hope that this is temporary. But I also have the presence of mind of self-awareness to realize that I don't have any say or control over what's going to happen or how long it's going to take. So all I can have is hope. And if it becomes clear to me, or I've run out of time with regards to, having to pay the bills and just not happening anymore, I will be forced to make a change if I want to survive. We're not anywhere near that yet, but the uncertainty is definitely causing anxiety. And all you can do is just keep moving forward and hope it works out, because it's not in your control anyway. And if it doesn't, then we'll figure it out. But if it does, there's nothing to figure out. We just have to bide time. Mark Gaines says, great stream tonight, Carey and Mara. Thank you, Mark. And thank you for your friendship and all of your support as well. Andy says, things are going to come back. Adjustments will be made. It just won't be the same. Yeah, I'm fine with that. As long as I can sustain what I love to do for a living, that's really where my passion is. So to have to go and find another passion, I don't know. I guess I'll do what I have to, but I'm with you, Andy. I think that's probably right. Jim Kenny wants to know, is YouTube Premium an ad blocker? YouTube Premium is an ad replacer, just so you're aware. Let's see. Chris Johnson says, thank you for the great stream, Carey, and thank you to my chat friends for your comments and support for the channel. I am glad to be here with you. Thank you, Chris. Right on. Love this community. Maybe that's if the computer thing dries up, we'll still have a community anyway. For sure. We're not going to abandon the community. All right. I don't see any questions about the computer. So the only thing that really remains will be if those slots are Gen 4. If Andy says his are Gen 4, then these should be the same. Right? If it's a 6800, it's going to have the same chipset. In theory, it should have the same capabilities. But would they both be Gen 4? Or would one be Gen 3? And I don't know the number of lanes on these chips, so I don't know what they're capable of. And if Getorli's not specifying it, then we have to figure it out the hard way, which is to open it up, physically change the drive and see, and then do the other slot. Then we'll know for certain, just by using a Gen 4, like a Beijing S880 is all I need to do, and just plug it in. It doesn't take very long. It's mostly just taking it apart. We can still boot off of the Gen 3 drive with the Beijing in the other slot, then run Crystal Disk Info and see if it's in Gen 4x4 mode. And then, regardless of those results, shut it all down, unplug it from power, swap places so that the boot drive is now on the other M.2 slot, and the Beijing empty drive will be on the one that the NVMe was previously in that we're booting from. Once again, it'll automatically boot into Windows. Once again, we run Crystal Disk Info on the Beijing drive in the other slot and see if that also shows up as Gen 4. If it does, that means both slots are Gen 4. So it's not like I have to reinstall Windows from scratch. You could if you wanted to do it the hard way, or you could clone the drive onto another drive if you wanted to do it the hard way. But that's all we really need to do. But the fact that we have to do it at all is a part of the industry I'd like to see solve itself. It's in their own best interest to make sure their customers know all the details to reduce returns and support calls. So when we figure that out, we'll share the information and the advice with Getorli, as well as leave it in the review on Amazon, despite we're not making any money to help other people. They don't know who we are, we don't know who they are, and we don't owe them any explanation. But we do believe it benefits Getorli, and we want them to benefit so that they will continue to work with us, because I like this. I like what I see, and I would like to see more from Getorli. I like the way they're headed. This is a major improvement on the support side with the website and the drivers from what we originally saw from them. So my congratulations and my appreciation to them for caring to do it right. And given that they have so many other models we've never seen, we'd love to see more from them. And we think this may be a brand worth considering if you're looking to save money and you don't want necessarily that name brand and that name brand tax. And maybe you don't need that kind of support anyway, although we don't really know what kind of support they have. We've not tested it. But if we assume the worst, with the benefit being the price break, that I think would be how I would base my decision. If I really need the support, I just don't know. But with HP and Lenovo and Dell, I do know. And if it's worth that price difference, then that will be my purchasing decision, either way. But the fact that they've got the site and they've got contact information, they've got drivers, means support should theoretically be there if it's needed. All right, so with that, it's a thumbs up. I like it. It's quiet, it runs well, it's priced fairly. It's definitely not the cheapest computer in the world, but it's also not overpriced at all. Like it's very competitive where it's at for what you're getting. And basically, there's nothing you need to do to it. Just take it out of the box, plug it in, start using it. Even though I reinstalled Windows 11 from scratch, you don't have to. It's just a comfort thing. It's not a technical thing. And if you want to know how to do that, you can watch this video and follow step by step and do exactly what I did and get the same results I got. Thank you guys once again for hanging out. And Sean Skinner, thank you for your kind words. I appreciate you very much. Thanks to everybody in our community for being the amazing folks that you are. It's a pleasure having you here. We're glad you're with us. We're back Sunday. I don't know which mini PC we're going to do on Sunday. I love being able to say that now. I don't know what I'm going to do on Sunday versus, oh, I've got 7 different computers I could pick from. Nice. So I'm not going to make that decision right now. I will tell you that personally, there's a really weird mini PC from AUStar that I personally am interested in. So I got a feeling we might be looking at that. On the other hand, we also just received a budget-friendly, higher-end, mid-range mini, brand new, latest technology from Miniswarm that bare bones sells for under $300. How's that even possible? USB 4, Ultra 5 processor, latest processors basically, or maybe it's 1 year behind, like a 125H or something like that. But very, very new technology for under the $300 price point on bare bones. They did not send us the bare bones unit, which is good because I'm running out of RAM. The unit they sent is about twice that price because it does have RAM and storage already but still a hell of a deal. So I really want to look at that one. But there's also the GMK Tech, and I really, you know what? I don't know what I'm going to do. We'll figure it out on Sunday, but we will get to them all over time. Otherwise, we'll have nothing to do in future shows if I do it all at once. But I'm looking forward to them. If you can't tell, this is what I love doing. And maybe it'll open up some ideas for you guys for systems you didn't know existed at prices you didn't think were possible. Otherwise, you just might find it entertaining. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here. I hope you'll join us on Sunday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, as always, for our next live broadcast. Be sure and catch our friend Doug Betts. He'll be live every Saturday. That's tomorrow at 11 a.m., I believe, is when he starts in California time. And then when he's done, right around the same time, our friend Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To goes live out of England. And he does a live interaction show too. So if you want more content like this, Doug Betts, then Mike's Unboxing, and then Sunday, we're back again. So plenty of other content to watch from other similarly minded content creators that I'm sure most of you were already aware of. But if not, check them out. I think you'll like them if you like this. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on Sunday. Until then, bye for now.